The autumn light filtered through the tall windows of Hanul International Academy's library like liquid gold, casting long shadows across polished wooden floors. 7-year-old Kai Kong walked between the towering shelves, his small fingers trailing along leather spines, searching for a book about tigers. Near the window a girl sat alone. She looked up. He froze. The room went silent. Because she had his face. Not similar. Identical. The same wide-set eyes. The same curved lips. The same small birthmark beneath the left ear, shaped like a crescent moon. The librarian's hand flew to her mouth. A teacher dropped an entire stack of books, the sound crashing through the silence like thunder. A parent standing near the entrance went pale as death, her phone already rising with trembling fingers. Kai's voice came out small, confused, innocent. "Why do you have my face?" Sometimes the most devastating secrets don't hide in darkness. They hide in plain sight, in the faces of children who were never supposed to meet. If this story touches your heart, please like, share, and subscribe. Now let us return to the moment everything changed. The girl blinked at him. She had been reading a book about butterflies, her small fingers pressed against the pages as if protecting something precious. Her uniform was identical to his, the navy blazer with the golden crest of Hanul International Academy, but her tie was slightly crooked, like someone had helped her dress in a hurry. "I don't understand," she whispered. Her voice. It sounded like his voice. The same soft melody. The same slight hesitation before certain words. Kai took a step closer, his heart hammering against his ribs like a trapped bird. He had seen himself in mirrors thousands of times. He knew every curve of his own face, every expression that crossed his features when he was happy or sad or confused. This girl wore all of them. "Are you me?" he asked, the question sounding ridiculous even as it left his lips. The girl shook her head slowly, her dark curls bouncing with the movement. "I'm Mina. Mina Adeyemi. Adeyemi. Not Kong. But that face. Those eyes. That birthmark. I'm Kai," he said carefully. "Kai Kong." Behind them, chaos erupted in whispers. Mrs. Park, the head librarian, was already on her phone, speaking rapidly in hushed Korean that Kai couldn't fully understand. Something about impossible, and immediately, and a name that made her voice shake. Chairman Kong. His father's name. The teacher who had dropped the books, Miss Young, was staring at both children with an expression Kai had never seen on an adult's face before. It looked like fear. Pure, undiluted terror. "Children," she said, her voice unnaturally bright. "Why don't we?" "No." The word came from Mina, small but firm. She stood up from her chair, the butterfly book falling forgotten to the floor. She walked toward Kai with careful, measured steps, stopping only when they were close enough to touch. Then she did something that made every adult in the room hold their breath. She reached up and touched the birthmark beneath Kai's left ear. Her fingers were warm. Familiar in a way that made no sense. "I have one too," she whispered. "In the same place. Mama always said it was special." Kai's hand rose automatically to her face, his small fingers finding the identical mark beneath her ear. Crescent moon. Same size. Same shape. Same exact position. "Who is your mother?" he asked. "Zara Adeyemi," Mina answered. "She's a teacher. Not here. At a different school. She teaches art to little kids." "My mother is dead," Kai said quietly. "Father said she died when I was a baby." Mina's eyes went wide. "That's sad. I'm sorry." "It's okay. I don't remember her." But even as he said it, something twisted in his chest. Something that felt like a lie he had believed his whole life. "Kai." His name spoken sharply. He turned to find his bodyguard. Uncle June he called him, though the man was not really his uncle, standing in the library doorway. The massive man's face was carefully blank, but his eyes darted between Kai and Mina with something that looked almost like recognition. Almost like he had expected this moment. "We need to leave," June said. "Now." "But I just met." "Now, young master." June's hand closed around Kai's shoulder, firm but not painful. The kind of grip that meant there would be no argument. Kai looked back at Mina as he was guided toward the door. She stood alone in that golden light, her butterfly book forgotten on the floor, her identical face watching him with eyes that suddenly looked wet with tears. "Will I see you again?" she called out. June's grip tightened. Maybe, Kai called back. I hope so. But even at 7 years old he understood that maybe was often an adult's way of saying no. The black Mercedes pulled away from the school in silence. Kai sat in the back seat, his small hands folded in his lap, his mind racing with questions he didn't know how to ask. June was on the phone, speaking in that rapid, hushed Korean that adults used when they didn't want children to understand. But Kai had been learning. Listening. Piecing together words and phrases the way he assembled his Lego sets. Carefully, methodically, building something complete from scattered pieces. Identical, impossible. Chairman must be informed. 7 years. No, she was supposed to be gone. Containment. Understood. Containment. Kai didn't know exactly what that word meant, but it sounded cold. Clinical. Like something you did to a spill or a fire or a problem. Was Mina a problem? Was he a problem? He pressed his forehead against the cool glass of the window and watched Seoul blur past. All those gleaming towers and ancient temples, neon signs and quiet temples. The city of contradictions that had been his whole world. Somewhere out there, a girl with his face was probably being driven away too. Somewhere out there, his father was receiving a phone call that would change everything. Kai closed his eyes and tried to remember his mother. He had asked about her before. Many times. Father always said the same thing. She was beautiful. He loved you. She died. 3 facts. No stories. No photographs. No memories shared. Just 3 cold facts, delivered in father's cold voice, followed by father's cold silence. But now there was a girl with his face. A girl whose mother was alive. A girl who looked at him like he was a missing piece of something neither of them understood. Kai opened his eyes. Uncle June. The bodyguard glanced at him through the rearview mirror. Yes, young master? That girl. Mina. Is she my sister? The car swerved slightly. June's knuckles went white on the steering wheel. That is a question for your father, he said finally. But you know the answer. Silence. Don't you? More silence. Kai was only 7 years old, but he had learned something important in his short life. Silence was often louder than words. Silence was what adults used when the truth was too heavy to carry. Uncle June's silence told him everything. The penthouse office occupied the entire top floor of Kong Tower, a monument of glass and steel that pierced Seoul's skyline like a blade. Kang Min-ho stood at the window, his back to the city that feared him, his reflection ghost-like against the darkening sky. He was 47 stories above the streets. Above the traffic and the crowds and the petty concerns of ordinary people. Up here the world was silent. Controlled. The phone call had come 17 minutes ago. 17 minutes since his carefully constructed reality had begun to crack. Identical, Director Huang had said, his voice shaking. Chairman, I have seen them both with my own eyes. The resemblance is not coincidental. It is absolute. The girl, she has the birthmark. The same birthmark as young Master Kai. Beneath the left ear. Crescent moon. Minho had not responded. Sir? Chairman Kong? Are you still? Bring me everything. 3 words. That was all. Director Huang had understood. He always did. Now Minho waited, his hands clasped behind his back, the dragon's tail visible along his right wrist, disappearing beneath the crisp white cuff of his shirt. The ink was decades old, but it remained as vivid as the day it was carved into his flesh. A young man's promise to himself that he would never be weak again. The tiger on his back had taken 3 sessions to complete. 12 hours of needles piercing skin, of blood and sweat and silence. He had not made a sound. Not once. The tattoo artist, an old Yakuza master who had fled Japan with secrets of his own, had looked at him with something approaching respect when it was finished. You do not flinch, the old man had said. I learned not to, Minho had replied. That had been 23 years ago. 23 years of building an empire. 23 years of eliminating threats, consolidating power, becoming the man that other men whispered about in dark rooms. 23 years of becoming the Black Tiger, a name spoken with fear across 3 continents. And now a 7-year-old girl threatened to destroy all of it. No, not the girl. The truth she represented. The door behind him opened. He didn't turn. Chairman. Secretary Kim's voice. Efficient. Controlled. Director Huang has arrived with the files you requested. Send him in. Then leave. Yes, sir. Footsteps. The door opening and closing. Then different footsteps, heavier, more uncertain. Minho finally turned. Director Huang was a small man with nervous hands and a receding hairline that seemed to retreat further each time they met. He ran the administrative operations of Hanul International Academy, a position that came with exactly as much power as Minho chose to give him. Currently that power was hanging by a thread. Report, Minho said. No greeting. No pleasantries. Huang swallowed visibly. The girl's name is Mina Adeyemi. Age 7. She enrolled at the academy 3 weeks ago after relocating from a smaller school in Busan. Her mother. Name. Sir. The mother's name. Huang's hands trembled as he consulted his files. Zara. Zara Adeyemi. Nigerian national. Permanent resident status in South Korea. She works as an art teacher at a public elementary school in Gangnam. She relocated to Seoul 6 months ago and... Zara. The name fell from Minho's lips like a stone dropping into still water. Huang stopped speaking. The room seemed to contract, the air growing thick with something dangerous. Huang had worked for the chairman for 11 years. He had seen the man negotiate with politicians, intimidate rival businessmen, destroy careers with a single phone call. He had never heard his voice sound like this. Like something buried had suddenly clawed its way to the surface. Sir. Huang ventured carefully. Do you know this woman? Minho's jaw tightened. The tiger tattoo seemed to ripple beneath his collar, visible along the side of his neck. The creature's eyes staring out, predatory and patient. Continue. The girl, Mina. Her birth certificate lists no father. Single mother household. They lived in Busan for the past 7 years, kept a low profile. The mother worked various teaching positions, never staying anywhere longer than 2 years. They moved frequently. Always renting. Never purchasing property. Running, Minho said quietly. Sir. She was running. For 7 years. Huang's confusion was evident, but he knew better than to ask questions. He simply continued reading. The resemblance between Mina and your son was noted immediately upon her enrollment. Several staff members commented on it, but it was dismissed as coincidence until today's incident in the library, when both children were seen together. Who else knows? The question cracked like a whip. Currently, the librarian Mrs. Park. A teacher named Young Eun-ji. One parent Mrs. Cho who happened to be in the library at the time. And young Master Kai's bodyguard, who extracted him from the situation. The bodyguard reported directly to me. Sir. He followed protocol. And the others? Huang's face went pale. Sir, I don't. Have they been contained? The word hung in the air. Contained. Huang understood what was being asked. He understood and it made him feel sick. But he had made choices long ago, choices that bound him to this man and this empire. There was no walking away now. Mrs. Park and Miss Young have been placed on immediate administrative leave pending an internal review. They've been reminded of the non-disclosure agreements in their contracts. The parent Mrs. Cho is more complicated. Her husband is a prosecutor. Which prosecutor? Lee Sang-woo. He handles financial crimes. A flicker of something passed across Minho's face. Calculation. Assessment. I will handle the prosecutor personally, he said. What else? Huang hesitated. There is one more thing, sir. Speak. The girl's mother, Zara Adeyemi. According to our preliminary investigation, she was informed of the incident approximately 40 minutes ago. She immediately withdrew her daughter from the school. They've returned to their residence. Address. Huang handed over a slim folder. Everything we could find is in here. Residence, employment history, financial records, known associates. Minho took the folder but didn't open it. His eyes remained fixed on Huang's face, reading the smaller man's fear like words on a page. You've worked for me for 11 years, Director. Yes, sir. In that time, have you ever known me to be a cruel man? Huang's throat worked. No, sir. Efficient, yes. Thorough, yes. But not cruel. Remember that, Minho said softly. Because what I am about to do, it will look cruel. It will look like the actions of a monster. But I need you to understand something. He stepped closer and Huang fought the urge to step back. 7 years ago someone took something from me. Someone lied to me. Someone made me believe that the woman I... He stopped. The pause stretched, filled with ghosts. Someone will pay for those 7 years, Minho finished. But it will not be the girl. And it will not be her mother. Do you understand? Huang nodded frantically. Sir. Of course, sir. Good. Now get out. The director fled. Minho waited until the door closed before opening the folder. Inside were photographs, employment records, rental agreements, a timeline of 7 years spent moving through South Korea like a ghost, always one step ahead of something, or someone. And then, finally, a photograph. Sir. Older now. Her face had lost some of its youthful softness, replaced by something harder. Wearier. But those eyes, God, those eyes were exactly as he remembered. Dark and deep and filled with secrets. He traced his finger along the edge of the photograph. 7 years. She had been alive for 7 years. She had raised a child, his child, for 7 years. She had hidden from him for 7 years. Why? The question burned through him like acid, eating away at every assumption he had made, every truth he had accepted. He had been told she betrayed him. He had been told she took money, millions, and vanished. He had been told she never loved him, that he was nothing but a mark, a wealthy fool seduced by a beautiful woman with a beautiful agenda. He had believed it. He had wanted to believe it because believing it was easier than accepting that he had lost her. Believing she was a villain made the grief easier to carry. But now there was a 7-year-old girl with his face and his birthmark and his blood running through her veins. A girl who had been hidden from him. A girl whose existence meant that everything he had been told was a lie. Minho set the photograph down carefully. Then he picked up his phone. "Get me Park Dae-sung," he said. The name of his head of security. His most trusted operative. The man who had been by his side for over 15 years. The man who had delivered the news of Zara's betrayal 7 years ago. "Tell him I need to see him. Tonight." He ended the call. Then he looked out at Seoul once more, at the millions of lives playing out beneath him, all those ordinary people with their ordinary problems. Somewhere down there, Zara Adeyemi was probably holding her daughter and wondering what would happen next. Their daughter. Minho's hand clenched into a fist, the dragon tattoo rippling across his knuckles. For 7 years he had been a phantom. A ghost haunting the spaces where his heart used to be. Tonight the black tiger would awaken. And God help anyone who had been foolish enough to take his family from him. The apartment was small but clean. 2 bedrooms, a modest kitchen, walls covered with Mina's artwork and photographs of places they had visited during their years of running. Zara Adeyemi sat on the edge of her daughter's bed, watching the child sleep. Mina had cried for an hour after they'd returned home. Not because she was scared but because she was confused. Because she had met a boy with her face and no one would explain what it meant. Because the adults around her had looked terrified, and children always know when adults are afraid. "Mama, is he my brother?" she had asked between sobs. Zara had not answered. She couldn't. Because the truth, the full, terrible, complicated truth, was not something a 7-year-old could understand. It was barely something Zara herself could comprehend, even after living it for the past 7 years. Now, with Mina finally asleep, Zara allowed herself to feel the fear she had been suppressing all evening. He knew. After 7 years of running, 7 years of hiding, 7 years of looking over her shoulder and starting at shadows, he knew. Kang Minho, the father of her children. The man she had loved with every fiber of her being. The man she had been forced to abandon. Zara rose quietly and walked to the window, looking out at the Seoul skyline. Somewhere out there, in one of those gleaming towers, he was probably already planning. Calculating. Deploying the vast resources at his disposal to find her. The Black Tiger. She had learned that name after she fled, discovered it in whispered conversations and terrified glances. The legitimate businessman she had fallen in love with, the man who had shown her his scars and his secrets and his surprising gentleness, was also something else. Something dangerous. Something that powerful people feared. But she hadn't run because of what he was. She had run because of what they would have done to her. The memory rose unbidden, as vivid as if it had happened yesterday instead of 7 years ago. The mansion's study. Dark wood and darker shadows. Rain streaking down tall windows. She had been summoned, that was the word they used, summoned, as if she were a servant rather than the woman carrying Minho's child. His mother. Park Soo-yeon. A woman carved from ice and old money, her beauty preserved through expensive procedures and carefully maintained cruelty. You will leave tonight. Zara had stared at her, uncomprehending. I don't understand. Minho and my son has no future with you. The older woman's voice could have frozen fire. A Nigerian woman? A foreigner with no family name, no connections, no standing? You will be chairman one day. You will control an empire. And you think he can do that with you on his arm? He loves me. He loves the idea of you. The exoticism. The rebellion against everything I've tried to teach him. But love fades, Miss Adeyemi. Power does not. I'm pregnant. The words had fallen out before Zara could stop them. Her secret. Her precious, terrifying secret. 3 months along. Still hidden beneath loose clothing and careful lies. Park Soo-yeon's expression didn't change. But something in her eyes, something predatory, flickered to life. I know, she said. Zara's blood went cold. How? I know everything that happens in this house. My son's life. In his bed. The older woman rose, moving toward Zara with slow, deliberate steps. I also know something you don't. Something that will change everything. What are you talking about? You're carrying twins. Zara closed her eyes against the memory. Twins. She had discovered the same thing a week later, at a doctor's appointment she'd attended alone. 2 heartbeats. 2 lives growing inside her. And by then it was already too late. Park Soo-yeon had made her choice clear. Leave Korea and never return, take 1 child and disappear forever, or watch as Zara's entire family back in Nigeria was destroyed. Her mother's small business. Her brother's political career. Her sister's children. You think my influence ends at these borders? The woman had said, her smile sharp as a blade. You think there is anywhere on this earth you can hide from me? Why? Why do you want me gone so badly? Because my son will be great. And greatness requires sacrifice. He will sacrifice you. He will sacrifice 1 child. And in return he will become everything he was born to be. Minho would never agree to this. Park Soo-yeon had laughed. A cold, hollow sound. Minho will believe whatever I tell him to believe. He will believe you took his money and ran. He will believe you never loved him. And eventually he will forget you ever existed. You're his mother. How can you be so cruel? Cruelty is kindness when it serves a greater purpose. Zara opened her eyes. That night she had fled. Not because she agreed to Park Soo-yeon's terms, but because she knew the woman would make good on her threats. The Kang family's reach was vast, their resources nearly unlimited. If Zara stayed and fought, she would lose. Her family would suffer. Her children would become pawns in a game they didn't understand. So she had taken Mina, the smaller twin, the one who had been struggling in the womb, and run. She had left Kai behind, trusting that Minho, whatever he might believe about her, would never harm his own son. She had gambled that the boy would be safer in his father's world than on the run with her. 7 years later she still didn't know if she'd made the right choice. But she knew one thing with absolute certainty. The moment those 2 children had seen each other, the careful lie she'd been living had begun to unravel. Her phone buzzed. A number she didn't recognize. Her hand trembled as she answered. Hello. Zara Adeyemi? A man's voice. Unfamiliar. Who is this? My name is not important. What is important is that you understand the situation you now find yourself in. Her heart hammered. What situation? Who are you? Someone who knows the truth. About the twins. About what really happened 7 years ago. About why you ran. Zara's grip on the phone tightened. I don't know what you're talking about. Then let me refresh your memory. On September 14th, 7 years ago, you gave birth to fraternal twins at a private hospital in Gangnam. The records were destroyed. The staff were paid to forget. 1 child stayed with his father. 1 child disappeared with you. How do you know this? Because I helped make it happen. Silence. I was Park Soo-yeon's assistant. Her cleaner if you prefer. I made problems disappear. You were a problem. Then why are you calling me now? Pause. When the voice returned it sounded different. Tired. Almost regretful. Because Park Soo-yeon is dead. She died 2 years ago and with her death my loyalty ended. I'm calling because I know what's coming, Miss Adeyemi. I know that Kang Minho has learned of your daughter's existence. I know he will stop at nothing to find you. Then I run again. You can try. But he is not his mother. The black tiger doesn't just want answers, he needs them. He has spent 7 years believing you betrayed him. 7 years thinking you stole money and vanished. 7 years hating a ghost. He believed that. He believed I would. His mother was very convincing. And he wanted to believe the worst because believing the worst was easier than believing he had lost you. Zara sank into a chair, her legs suddenly unable to hold her weight. What do you want? She whispered. Why are you telling me this? Because I have something you need. Evidence. Recordings. Documents. Everything Park Si-yeon did to separate you from your son. I kept copies. Insurance, you understand. Why would you give that to me? I wouldn't. Not for free. Of course. Nothing was ever free. How much? Not money, Miss Adeyemi. I'm dying. Cancer. 6 months, maybe less. What I want is much simpler than money. What? I want peace. I want to die knowing that I undid at least one of the terrible things I helped create. I want to watch Park Si-yeon's legacy burn, even from beyond the grave. Zara's mind raced. This could be a trap. It could be another layer of the conspiracy, another manipulation designed to hurt her. But it could also be the truth. And the truth was the only weapon she had left. Where do we meet? She asked. There's a cafe in Itaewon. The Blue Lantern. Tomorrow 3 p.m. Come alone. Bring nothing but yourself. How will I know you? You won't. But I'll know you. I've known your face for 7 years, Miss Adeyemi. It's haunted me every single day. The line went dead. Zara stared at the phone in her hand, her reflection ghost-like in the dark screen. Tomorrow everything might change. Or tomorrow she might be walking into a trap that would destroy what little she had left. Either way, she couldn't run anymore. Not with Kai out there. Not with Mina asking questions she deserved answers to. Not with 7 years of lies pressing down on her chest like a stone. She looked toward Mina's bedroom door. I'm sorry, baby, she whispered. Mama has to be brave now. The safe house was located beneath a restaurant in Gangnam, accessible only through a kitchen freezer that concealed a reinforced steel door. Park Dae-sung had been waiting for 30 minutes. He was a large man, broad-shouldered and thick-necked, with the kind of face that had seen violence and learned to wear it like a mask. He had served Chairman Kong for 15 years, first as a bodyguard, then as head of security and finally as something far more complicated, a keeper of secrets. He had many secrets. Tonight some of them were about to be exposed. The steel door opened and Kong Min-ho entered. Dae-sung rose immediately, bowing his head in respect. Chairman. You summoned me. Sit. A command, not a request. Dae-sung sat. Min-ho remained standing, his tall frame seeming to fill the small concrete room. The fluorescent lights cast harsh shadows across his features, turning his eyes into pools of darkness. 7 years ago, Min-ho said softly, you brought me a report. Dae-sung's hands, hidden beneath the table, clenched into fists. You told me that Zara Adeyemi had transferred $3 million from one of my accounts to an offshore fund. You told me that she had booked a flight to Lagos under a false name. You told me that she had never loved me, that I was nothing but a mark, a wealthy fool who had been seduced by a beautiful con artist. Chairman. I believed you. 2 words. Heavy as tombstones. I believed you, Dae-sung. I trusted you. And because I trusted you, I didn't look for her. I didn't question the evidence. I simply accepted that the woman I loved had betrayed me and moved on. Sir, Today I discovered something interesting. Min-ho reached into his jacket and withdrew a photograph. He placed it on the table between them. It was a school photograph. 2 children side by side, their faces turned toward each other in wonder. Identical faces. Recognize them? Min-ho asked. Dae-sung stared at the photograph. His face had gone pale. The boy is my son. You know him well, you've helped protect him since he was born. But the girl. Min-ho leaned forward, his tattooed fingers pressing against the edge of the photo. The girl is interesting. Her name is Mina. She's 7 years old. She has a birthmark beneath her left ear, shaped like a crescent moon. Silence. She is Zara's daughter. Which means she is also my daughter. My daughter, Dae-sung. A daughter I never knew existed. A daughter who was hidden from me for 7 years. Chairman, I swear to you I didn't know. Don't. The word was quiet. Almost gentle. But Dae-sung flinched as if he'd been struck. Don't lie to me. Not now. Not after everything. Min-ho straightened, his shadow falling across the table like a shroud. My mother kept records. She thought I would never find them, but she underestimated how thoroughly I would clean house after her death. I found correspondence. Payments. Instructions. His voice dropped lower. Instructions given to you. Dae-sung's breathing grew ragged. You were the one who fabricated the financial evidence. You were the one who booked the false flight. You were the one who delivered the report that broke my heart and convinced me that Zara was a traitor. Your mother. She said it was for the family. For the organization. She said a foreign woman couldn't be trusted, that Zara would make you weak. And the children? The question hung in the air. Did you know about the twins? Dae-sung closed his eyes. Answer me. Yes. The word came out as a whisper. I knew. Your mother told me. She said it was better this way. That one child would be enough. That the other one would be forgotten. Min-ho's hand shot out, closing around Dae-sung's throat. The older man didn't resist. Didn't struggle. He simply sat there, accepting the pressure of those tattooed fingers against his windpipe. You helped her take my child from me. Yes. You helped her destroy the woman I loved. Yes. You have worked by my side for 15 years, knowing what you did. Knowing that my daughter was out there growing up without a father. Knowing that Zara was running, terrified, alone. Yes. Min-ho's grip tightened. Dae-sung's face began to redden. Give me one reason not to kill you right now. Because. Dae-sung choked out. Because you need me. Because I know where the rest of the evidence is hidden. Because your mother had partners. People who helped her, people who are still watching. If you kill me now, you'll never find them. And they will come for Zara and the girl before you can protect them. Min-ho's eyes narrowed. You're bargaining for your life with more betrayals? I'm bargaining with the only currency I have left. Dae-sung met his gaze, unflinching despite the pressure on his throat. I did terrible things for your mother. I did them because I was loyal to the Kong family above all else, even above you. But she's dead now. And my loyalty passes to you. Let me help you fix this. Let me help you find everyone who was involved and make them pay. A long moment passed. Then Min-ho released his grip. Dae-sung collapsed forward, gasping for air. You will tell me everything, Min-ho said coldly. Every name. Every payment. Every instruction. You will hold nothing back. Yes, Chairman. And when this is over, when Zara and my daughter are safe, when every conspirator has been dealt with, then we will discuss your fate. Dae-sung nodded weakly. I understand. Start talking. The Blue Lantern Cafe was half empty at 3 p.m. Zara sat in a corner booth, her back to the wall, her eyes scanning every face that entered. She had left Mina with her neighbor, a kind elderly woman who asked no questions and accepted cash payments for babysitting. The cafe smelled like roasted coffee and fresh pastries. Soft jazz played through hidden speakers. Normal sounds for a normal place on a normal afternoon. Nothing about this situation was normal. Miss Adeyemi. She looked up. An elderly man stood beside her table. He was thin, almost gaunt, with the sunken cheeks and hollow eyes of someone fighting a losing battle with illness. But his gaze was sharp, alert, missing nothing. You're the one who called me, she said. He nodded, sliding into the seat across from her. My name is Baek Jong-soo. For 30 years I served the Kong family. For the last 15 of those years I served Park Soo-yeon directly. The woman who destroyed my life. Yes. He didn't flinch from the accusation. I helped her do terrible things. I justified them as necessary. I told myself that I was serving a greater purpose. He coughed, a wet, rattling sound that spoke of damaged lungs. I was wrong. Why should I believe anything you say? You shouldn't. He reached into his jacket and withdrew a thick manila envelope. That's why I brought evidence. He slid the envelope across the table. Zara stared at it like it might bite her. Inside you'll find recordings of Park Soo-yeon giving instructions for your removal. Bank transfers proving she paid people to fabricate evidence against you. Medical records from the hospital where you gave birth, showing that your children were deliberately separated. And testimony, written and signed by me, detailing everything I witnessed and participated in. Why? Why would you give me this? Because I'm dying. He said it matter-of-factly without self-pity. And when I meet my maker, I would like to have at least one good deed to my name. Zara opened the envelope with trembling fingers. The first document was a photograph. 2 newborn babies side by side in hospital bassinets. Their faces were red and wrinkled, their eyes squeezed shut, their tiny fists raised as if fighting the world that had just received them. Kai and Mina. Her babies. The last time she had seen them together. Tears welled in her eyes. She took him from me. She told me if I didn't leave, if I didn't take Mina and disappear, she would destroy everyone I loved. I know. I was in the room when she made the threat. I wanted to fight. I wanted to stay and tell Minho the truth. But she had so much power. So many connections. She had already fabricated evidence making it look like I was a gold digger, a con artist. If I stayed, he would have believed her over me. She was counting on that. Zara looked up, her eyes swimming with tears. Does he know now? Does Minho know the truth? That depends on what you mean by truth. Beck leaned back, studying her face. He knows about Mina. He knows you didn't betray him. But he doesn't know everything, not yet. His mother's conspiracy went deeper than even I understood. There were others involved. People in his organization who have been watching, waiting, ready to act if the truth ever came out. Act how? Eliminate the threat. Your daughter. Anyone who could expose what was done. Fear spiked through Zara's chest. I have to run. I have to take Mina, Anne. Running won't work. Not this time. They'll find you. They always do. Then what? What am I supposed to do? Beck leaned forward. Face him. Tell him everything. Give him the evidence and let him destroy the people who did this. And what about me? What about Mina? He might take her from me. He might. Miss Adeyemi. Beck's voice was gentle. I watched Kang Minho grow from a cold, ambitious young man into something different. Something harder, yes, but also something more human. Losing you broke him in ways I don't think even he understands. If he seems cruel now, it's because he spent 7 years believing that love is weakness. I can't just. You can. You must. Because the alternative is running forever, looking over your shoulder, raising your daughter in fear. Is that what you want for her? Zara closed her eyes. For 7 years she had run. 7 years of new cities and fake names and looking at every stranger as a potential threat. 7 years of raising Mina alone, telling her that her father was someone Mama knew a long time ago, never saying more because more would mean answers she wasn't ready to give. 7 years of missing Kai. Every birthday, every milestone, every moment she should have been there for. All of it stolen by a woman who saw her as nothing but an obstacle. Where is he? She asked finally. By now. Probably looking for you. He has resources you can't imagine. He'll find this cafe within the hour. He'll find your apartment by nightfall. Then I need to go to him first. On my terms. Beck smiled, a small, tired expression that transformed his gaunt face. That's what I was hoping you'd say. He slid a business card across the table. It was plain white with nothing but an address printed in elegant script. This is his private residence. Not the penthouse, the other one. The house he goes to when he wants to think. When he wants to be alone. Zara took the card. How do I know this isn't a trap? You don't. But you're out of options, Miss Adeyemi. Sometimes the only way forward is through. He rose slowly, steadying himself against the table. One more thing. He looked at her with something almost like kindness. He never stopped loving you. I watched him try. I watched him bury himself in work and power and cold, empty ambition. But at night, when he thought no one was watching, he would say your name in his sleep. Zara's breath caught. He deserves to know the truth. And you deserve to finally stop running. Baek Jong-soo turned and walked out of the cafe. He didn't look back. Zara sat alone with the envelope full of evidence and the address of the man she had never stopped loving. Outside, the sun was beginning to set. Tonight, everything would change. The house was not what she expected. She had imagined something cold, modern. All glass and steel and sharp angles. A reflection of the man Minho had become. Instead, she found a traditional Korean hanok, nestled into a hillside overlooking Seoul. Its curved wooden roof was silhouetted against the darkening sky, its paper windows glowing with warm light. A stone path wound through carefully maintained gardens, past ancient pine trees and beds of chrysanthemums. It looked like peace. It looked like home. Zara walked the stone path slowly, her heart pounding against her ribs. The envelope was clutched in her hands like a talisman, evidence of the truth she had carried for 7 years. The front door opened before she reached it. A figure stood in the doorway, backlit by golden light. Broad-shouldered. 7 years had changed him. His face was harder, his jaw more severe, his eyes, those dark, piercing eyes, holding a weight they hadn't carried before. Silver threaded through his black hair at the temples. Lines had appeared around his mouth, carved by years of tension and control. But beneath all of it she could still see him. Her Minho. The man who had held her through thunderstorms. The man who had learned to cook Nigerian jollof rice because she missed her mother's cooking. The man who had traced his fingers along her skin and promised her forever. Zara. Her name on his lips. After 7 years of silence. She opened her mouth to speak but no words came. Everything she had planned to say, all the explanations and justifications and desperate defenses, evaporated like mist. "You're really here," he said. "I wasn't sure you would come. You knew I was coming? I know everything that happens in my city." He stepped out of the doorway, moving toward her with that slow, deliberate grace she remembered. "I knew the moment you arrived at the cafe. I knew when Beck gave you the envelope. I've been waiting." "Then why didn't you come and drag you here?" "Because I wanted to see if you would choose to come. If you would choose to face me." He stopped an arm's length away, close enough that she could see the tiger's eye tattooed along his neck, watching her with predatory stillness. 7 years, Sar. 7 years I believed you betrayed me. 7 years I told myself that you were nothing but a beautiful lie. I didn't. I know. 2 words that stopped her heart. Daesung told me everything. My mother's conspiracy. The fabricated evidence. The threats against your family. His voice was controlled, but beneath the control she could hear something breaking. She took you from me. She took our daughter from me. And I believed her. I believed every lie she told. You didn't know. I should have known. The words exploded from him, raw and wounded. I should have questioned the evidence. I should have trusted what we had. But I was so convinced that I was weak, that loving you had made me vulnerable, that I chose to believe the worst because believing the worst was easier than searching for the truth. Tears spilled down Zara's cheeks. "Minho. Don't." He held up a hand and she saw that it was trembling. "Don't comfort me. I don't deserve it. I let you run. I let our daughter grow up without a father. I let you spend 7 years in fear because I couldn't." His voice cracked. And for the first time since she'd known him, Kang Minho looked broken. The Black Tiger. The feared mafia boss. The man who controlled an empire with a whisper and destroyed enemies with a glance. Broken. By her. By what he'd lost. By what they'd both lost. "I brought this." Zara held out the envelope with shaking hands. "Beck gave it to me. Evidence. Everything your mother did." He took the envelope but didn't open it. His eyes remained fixed on her face, drinking in every detail as if afraid she might disappear again. "I don't need evidence," he said quietly. "I need you. I need our daughter. I need to understand how to fix what was destroyed. Some things can't be fixed. Then we build something new." She stared at him. "Just like that. 7 years of pain and fear and running and you want to just... I want my family back." His voice broke on the last word. "I want to hold my daughter. I want to see our children together. I want to wake up without feeling like half of my soul is missing. I don't know if I can. Tell me what you need. Tell me what it takes. I will burn down everything I've built if that's what it costs. I don't want you to burn anything." Zara took a step closer, close enough to touch. "I want you to be the man I fell in love with. The man who showed me his scars and his secrets. The man who wasn't afraid to be gentle. I don't know if he still exists." "He does." She reached up, her fingers brushing the dragon tattoo visible along his collar. "He's still in there. Under all the armor. Under all the walls. I can see him." Minho closed his eyes. A single tear escaped, trailing down his cheek. She had never seen him cry. Not once in all their time together. He had been trained from childhood to suppress emotion, to view tears as weakness, to lock away everything soft and vulnerable. But now Now he wept. For her. For them. For the 7 years that had been stolen. Zara pulled him close, wrapping her arms around him as his shoulders shook with silent sobs. They stood like that in the garden, surrounded by ancient pines and fading chrysanthemums, as the last light of day disappeared behind the mountains. Two people who had been lost. Finally finding their way back. The next morning everything felt different. Zara woke in a guest room of the Hannock, sunlight streaming through paper windows, the scent of pine and coffee drifting in from somewhere distant. For a moment she didn't know where she was. Then she remembered. The conversation in the garden. The tears. The tentative, fragile understanding they had begun to build. She rose quickly, dressing in the same clothes she'd worn the day before. Her phone showed a dozen missed calls from her neighbor, the woman watching Mina. Panic spiked through her as she dialed back. Mrs. Kim? Is Mina okay? I'm so sorry, I should have called. She's fine. The elderly woman's voice was calm but curious. But there's a car here. A very expensive car. With men in suits who say they were sent by someone named Kong. They say they're here to bring Mina to see her mother. Zara's blood ran cold. Don't let them take her. I'll be there in. Zara. Minho's voice from the doorway. She spun to face him. He was dressed simply, dark trousers, white shirt, collar open to reveal the edge of his tattoo. He looked softer this morning. Less armored. But his eyes held the same intensity. My men are there for protection, not extraction, he said quietly. I sent them last night after you fell asleep. To watch over our daughter until we could bring her here safely. You should have told me. I didn't want to wake you. You looked peaceful. For the first time since I saw you, you looked peaceful. Zara's fear slowly ebbed, replaced by something more complicated. I need to see her. I need to make sure she's okay. Then we go together. He held out his hand. Both of us. To bring our daughter home. The drive to Zara's apartment took 40 minutes. Minho's security detail followed in separate vehicles. A protective convoy moving through the morning traffic of Seoul. Zara sat in the passenger seat of his car, a sleek black sedan with tinted windows, watching the city blur past. There's something else we need to discuss, Minho said as they drove. Kai. Zara's heart clenched at the name. The son she had never known. The boy with Mina's face. Does he know about any of this? Not yet. I wanted to wait until I understood the full situation. Until I could explain it in a way that wouldn't traumatize him. He's 7. He already knows something is wrong. Children always know. Yes. Minho's jaw tightened. He asked June, his bodyguard, if Mina was his sister. June didn't know how to answer. What do you want to do? I want them to meet. Properly. With both of us there to explain, to answer questions, to help them understand. He glanced at her. They're twins, Zara. They deserve to know each other. I know. She struggled to find the words. I've spent 7 years trying to protect Mina from all of this. From your world. From the danger and the secrets and the... From me. She didn't deny it. I was scared, she admitted. Your mother made me believe that you were part of the conspiracy. That you had agreed to separate the children. That you wanted me gone. And you believed her? I didn't know what to believe. I was pregnant, terrified, alone in a country where I had no family and no resources. He had all the power. I had nothing. You had me. His voice was quiet. You should have had me. I know that now. But then, Minho, you have to understand. I was 23 years old. I was in love with a man who turned out to be one of the most powerful people in South Korea. I discovered I was carrying twins. And then your mother threatened to destroy everyone I loved if I didn't disappear. I would have protected you. Would you? Would you have believed me over her? The question hung in the air. Minho didn't answer immediately. When he did, his voice was heavy with self-recrimination. I don't know. 7 years ago I was different. I was closer to her. More willing to trust her judgment. She raised me to believe that emotion was weakness, that love was a vulnerability to be exploited. If she had shown me the fabricated evidence while you were still there, told me you were a con artist, you would have believed her. Maybe. Probably. He exhaled slowly. I hate that I can't tell you otherwise. I hate that my weakness helped her destroy us. It wasn't weakness. It was manipulation. She was your mother. You loved her. I did. And now I wish I hadn't. They arrived at the apartment building. Minho's security team had positioned vehicles at both entrances, their presence drawing curious glances from passers-by. This wasn't a wealthy neighborhood. The building was modest, the street lined with small shops and street food vendors. This is where you've been living? Minho asked, his tone carefully neutral. Yes. For how long? 6 months. Since we came to Seoul. Why Seoul? Why come back here where you knew I might find you? Zara was silent for a moment. Then quietly, because Mina started asking about her father. He wanted to know who he was, where he came from. I told her he was Korean, that he lived in Seoul. She asked if she could see where he grew up. So you came back. For her. For her. And maybe. She hesitated. Maybe part of me was tired of running. Maybe I wanted to be found. Minho studied her face. And now you have been. Yes. Now I have been. The reunion between mother and daughter was tearful. Mina flew into Zara's arms the moment the door opened, her small body shaking with sobs. Mama. You didn't come home. I was scared. The nice man said you were okay, but I didn't know if. I'm here, baby. I'm here. I'm so sorry. Zara held her daughter close, breathing in the familiar scent of her hair, feeling the small heart hammering against her chest. Then Mina looked up and saw Minho. The child went still. Her dark eyes, his eyes, Zara realized now, moved over his face with unsettling intensity, taking in every detail, processing, calculating. You're the man from the car, Mina said finally. The one who sent the nice men. Minho crouched down to her level, bringing himself eye to eye with his daughter for the first time in their lives. Yes, he said simply. I am. Why? Because I wanted to make sure you were safe. Why do you care if I'm safe? Direct. Unflinching. Already showing the fierce intelligence that had characterized her since birth. Minho glanced at Zara. She nodded slowly. Because, he said, returning his attention to Mina, I'm your father. Silence. Mina's face went through a series of expressions. Surprise, confusion, suspicion, and finally something that looked almost like hope. My father. Yes. Mama said my father lived in Seoul. She said he was important. Did she? She said he loved me even though we couldn't be together. She said that sometimes people can't be with the people they love, but that doesn't mean they stop loving them. Minho's eyes glistened. Your mother is very wise. I know. Mina studied him again, her small head tilting. You have the same eyes as the boy from school. Kai. Yes. He asked why I have his face. I didn't know what to say. That's because Kai is your brother. Your twin brother. Mina's eyes went wide. I have a brother? You do. And he very much wants to meet you. The little girl looked at her mother, seeking confirmation. Zara smiled through her tears. It's true, baby. You have a twin brother. You were born on the same day at the same time. You just grew up in different places. Why? The question every child asks. The question with the hardest answer. Because some people did bad things, Zara said carefully. They told lies and kept secrets and made it so we couldn't all be together. But we're going to fix that now. How? By being a family. All of us. Mina looked between her mother and the stranger who was her father. For a long moment she said nothing. Then she reached out and took Minho's hand. His fingers, tattooed, scarred, capable of violence, closed gently around hers. Can I meet my brother now? She asked. Minho's voice when he spoke was thick with emotion. Yes, my daughter. You can meet him right now. Kai was waiting in the garden of the hammock. He stood beside the koi pond, throwing pellets to the fat golden fish, his small shoulders tense with anticipation. June had told him only that his father had important news, that there was someone he needed to meet. He had already guessed who. The girl with his face. His heart was beating so fast he could feel it in his throat. Then the garden gate opened. And there she was. Mina walked slowly toward him, her hands still clutched in their father's. Their mother, his mother, the woman he had been told was dead, walked beside them, her eyes red from crying but her smile warm. Kai didn't move. Couldn't move. Everything felt like a dream, the kind that disappears if you breathe too hard. Mina stopped a few feet away from him. For a long moment neither child spoke. They just looked at each other. Identical faces. Identical birthmarks. identical eyes now brimming with tears. "Hi," Mina whispered. "Hi," Kai whispered back. "You're my brother. You're my sister." More silence. More looking. More trying to understand how someone else could wear your face. Then Mina said, "I like your garden." And Kai said, "I like your dress." And just like that, the weight of 7 years began to lift. "Do you want to see the fish?" Kai asked. "Yes, please." He took her hand, the same way he might take his own hand if that were possible, and led her to the edge of the pond. Minho and Zara watched from a distance. "They're going to be okay," Zara said softly. "How do you know?" "Because they're ours. And we're not going to let anything hurt them ever again." Minho's hand found hers. Tattooed fingers interlacing with delicate ones. "No," he agreed quietly. "We're not." But even as the family began to heal, danger gathered in the shadows. That night, after the children had been put to bed, both of them in the same room, neither willing to be separated from the other, Minho received a phone call. Daesung's voice was tense. "We have a problem, Chairman." "Speak." "One of the conspirators, someone my investigation identified as being involved in your mother's scheme, has gone to ground. But before he disappeared, he made contact with someone outside the organization." "Who?" "We're still trying to confirm. But the communication suggests he's offering information to someone with significant resources. Someone who might use what he knows against you." Minho's blood ran cold. "What kind of information?" "The kind that could expose everything. Your mother's crimes. The separation of the twins. The involvement of high-ranking members of your organization in the cover-up. And in doing so expose me." "Yes, Chairman. Whoever receives this information could use it to destroy your reputation, destabilize your business empire, even take my family from me again." Silence on the line. Minho stood at the window of his study, looking out at the sleeping garden where his children had played just hours ago. "Find him," he said softly. "Find him before he can do any more damage. And when I do, bring him to me." "Yes, Chairman." The line went dead. Minho stared at his reflection in the dark glass, the tiger tattoo visible along his neck, the dragon scales creeping up from his collar. His mother was dead, but her poison lived on. The conspiracy she had created had roots deeper than he had imagined, tendrils that reached into every corner of his world. And now someone was trying to weaponize those secrets. Someone who wanted him destroyed. Someone who didn't care how many innocent people got hurt in the process. Minho's hands clenched into fists. He had spent 7 years being the Black Tiger. Feared, respected, untouchable. Now he would have to become something more. A father. A protector. A man willing to burn down the world for the family he had just gotten back. The next morning brought new revelations. Zara found a note slipped under the front door of the Hanok. Impossible given the security measures in place. It was written in Korean, but someone had helpfully added an English translation below. "She's not the only one who knows your secrets. There are others. Others who will not be silenced so easily. The truth about your children belongs to everyone now." Zara's hands shook as she brought the note to Minho. He read it in silence. His face showed nothing, that perfect controlled mask she remembered so well. But his eyes blazed with cold fury. "Someone breached the security," he said flatly. "Someone walked right past my guards and left this at my door." "Who would?" "Someone inside. Someone I trusted." He crushed the note in his fist. "Someone who has been watching. Waiting. Planning. What do? We prepare." He looked at her, and in his gaze she saw the predator that lived beneath the surface. The black tiger that had built an empire on fear and control. "My mother's conspiracy may have been dismantled, but the people she used are still out there. And now they're making their move. Against us. Against our family. Against everything we're trying to rebuild." He cupped her face in his hands, his tattooed fingers gentle against her skin. "I will not let them succeed. I will hunt down every single person who threatens you or our children. I will destroy them so completely that their names will be forgotten." "Minho, I know you want peace. I know you want a normal life. But that life was stolen from us 7 years ago, and the people who stole it are still out there. Until they're dealt with, we can never be safe." Zara looked into his eyes, those dark, fierce eyes that had once looked at her with such tenderness. Then we deal with them, she said quietly. Together. He blinked. You would stand with me? Even knowing what that might mean. You're the father of my children. You're the man I never stopped loving even when I thought you'd abandoned me. If there are people trying to destroy our family, then yes, I will stand with you. Whatever it takes. Minho pulled her close, his arms wrapping around her like a shield. Whatever it takes, he repeated. The break came 2 days later. Daesung's investigation had finally identified the source of the leak. A mid-level security operative named Han Sungjin, who had worked for the Kong organization for over a decade. He had been one of Park Soo-yeon's loyal soldiers, managing sensitive information and handling delicate situations. Now he was on the run with enough secrets to bring down an empire. But he hadn't run far enough. The safe house where they found him was a dingy apartment in Incheon, overlooking the industrial port where cargo ships moved like slow giants through the gray water. Minho entered alone. Sungjin was tied to a chair in the center of the room, his face bloody and bruised from Daesung's preliminary questioning. He looked up as Minho entered, and despite his injuries he managed a bloody smile. The Black Tiger himself. I'm honored. Minho said nothing. He simply pulled a chair from the corner of the room, placed it in front of Sungjin and sat down. His movements were unhurried. Patient. The way a predator might settle in for a long meal. You sent the note to my house, Minho said finally. I did. You've been feeding information to someone outside the organization. Also true. Who? Sungjin's smile widened, revealing blood-stained teeth. Now why would I tell you that? If I give you the name you'll kill me. At least this way I have some leverage. You have nothing. Minho's voice was soft, almost gentle. You're a dead man either way. The only question is whether you die quickly or slowly. Whether your family inherits your debts or your assets. Whether your sister's children grow up comfortable or destitute. The smile faltered. You've done your research. I always do. Minho leaned forward. The person you've been communicating with, they don't care about you. You're a tool to them, nothing more. The moment you're no longer useful, they'll dispose of you just as surely as I will. At least they'll pay me first. Will they? Or will they take what you've given them and leave you with nothing? Minho shook his head slowly. You've made a mistake, Sungjin. A fatal one. You bet against me. Against my family. And now you're going to tell me everything. Not because of threats to your sister's children, not because of fear, but because deep down you know I'm right. About what? About everything. You worked for my mother because you believed in her vision. But she's dead now. And the people you've aligned yourself with, they don't share her vision. They don't want to control the Kong Empire. They want to destroy it. And when they're done, do you think they'll have any use for a man who knows as much as you do? Sungjin's face went pale. Think about it, Minho continued. You've given them leverage over me. Secrets about my family. But secrets are only valuable if they remain secrets. Once they've used that information, once they've exposed me, destabilized my organization, taken what they want, what happens to the man who gave them those secrets? They said they would protect me. And you believed them? Minho almost laughed. You've been in this world for over a decade. You know how it works. Loose ends get cut. Witnesses disappear. The people who help you climb the ladder become the people who push you off when you've served your purpose. Sungjin's breathing had grown ragged. Who are they? Minho asked quietly. Who have you been working with? A long silence. Then finally a name. Choi Yun-suk. Minho's expression didn't change, but something dark flickered behind his eyes. The prosecutor? He's more than that. He's been building a case against you for years. Gathering evidence. Cultivating sources. He approached me 6 months ago, promised me immunity in exchange for everything I knew. And the information about my children? The conspiracy. I gave him all of it. The twins. The separation. Your mother's involvement. Sungjin's voice cracked. I thought if I helped him bring you down I could finally be free of all of it. Instead you've made yourself a target. Minho rose slowly. Choi Yun-suk doesn't want justice. He wants power. And he'll use my family's pain to get it. He walked toward the door, then paused. Daesung will ensure you're comfortable for the remainder of your time here. I suggest you use it to make peace with whatever gods you believe in. What are you going to do? Minho didn't turn around. I'm going to do what I always do, he said quietly. Protect my family. The weight of what was coming pressed down on everyone. Zara could feel it in the way Minho moved through the house, tense, watchful, like a tiger scenting danger. She could see it in the way his security team operated, their presence suddenly more visible, their weapons more obvious. The children somehow seemed oblivious. Or perhaps they simply chose to focus on what mattered to them, each other. Kai and Mina had become inseparable in the days since their reunion. They communicated in that strange, intimate way that twins often develop, finishing each other's sentences, sharing private jokes, moving through space as if connected by invisible threads. It was beautiful. It was heartbreaking. They had missed 7 years of this. 7 years of growing up together, of sharing discoveries and secrets and dreams. Those years couldn't be recovered, only mourned and released. But watching them now, Zara allowed herself to hope that the years ahead might be enough. Mama. She looked up from her thoughts. Mina stood in the doorway, her small face serious. Yes, baby. Is something bad going to happen? Children always know. Why do you ask that? Because father looks scared. And father doesn't get scared. Zara opened her arms and Mina crawled into them, her small body warm against her mother's chest. Sometimes grown-ups have to deal with difficult things, Zara said carefully. Things that are complicated and scary. But your father and I are working very hard to make sure you and Kai stay safe. Safe from what? From people who want to hurt us. Why would anyone want to hurt us? The innocent question, so simple, so devastating. Because sometimes people do bad things when they're scared or greedy or hurt. And sometimes those bad things affect people who don't deserve it. Like us. Like us. Mina was quiet for a moment. Then, but father is strong, right? He'll protect us. Yes, baby. Your father is very strong. And you're strong too? Zara smiled. I try to be. For you. For your brother. For our family. Then we'll be okay. Mina nodded with the simple certainty of childhood. Because strong people protect each other. That's what families do. Out of the mouths of babes. That's exactly what families do, Zara agreed. That night, after the children were asleep, Minho found Zara in the garden. She stood by the koi pond, her reflection shimmering on the dark water, her arms wrapped around herself against the evening chill. He approached silently, years of training making his footsteps imperceptible, but she knew he was there. The prosecutor, she said without turning. Choyance. How dangerous is he? Minho stopped beside her. Very. What is he planning? To expose everything. My mother's conspiracy. The separation of the twins. My organization's involvement in the cover-up. He'll use it to destroy my reputation, prosecute members of my organization, and eventually come after me directly. And us. Me and the children. You'll be called as witnesses. Your testimony could be used to support his case against me. Zara finally turned to face him. I won't testify against you. You might not have a choice. If he subpoenas you, you'll have to appear. And if you refuse to answer his questions, you could be held in contempt. I don't care. I won't help him destroy you. Zara. No. She stepped closer, her eyes fierce. I lost you once because of lies and manipulation and fear. I won't lose you again because some ambitious prosecutor wants to make a name for himself. He has evidence. Real evidence. Some of the things my organization has done. Minho's jaw tightened. They're not easy to defend. I'm not asking you to be perfect. I'm asking you to let me stand with you. I'm trying to protect you. I don't need protection. The words burst out of her, passionate and raw. I need a partner. I need someone who will let me fight beside them instead of locking me away in a tower. Minho stared at her. For a long moment neither of them spoke. Then slowly he reached up and cupped her face in his hands. You have no idea, he said quietly, how much I've missed you. I think I have some idea. 7 years. 7 years of emptiness. 7 years of believing I wasn't capable of being loved, that I wasn't worthy of it. You were the only person who ever made me feel whole, and when I lost you, you didn't lose me. I was taken from you. I know that now. But for 7 years I believed I had driven you away. That my darkness had finally consumed the one beautiful thing in my life. Your darkness didn't consume me. Zara's hands rose to cover his, her fingers tracing the dragon scales tattooed across his knuckles. It drew me in. Because I could see what was beneath it, the man you were trying so hard to hide. What if that man doesn't exist anymore? He does. I saw him yesterday when you met Mina for the first time. I saw him this morning when you made breakfast for both children and burned the eggs because you were too busy watching them laugh. I see him now, standing in the moonlight, terrified that he's going to lose everything again. Minho's eyes glistened. I don't know how to be afraid, he whispered. I was trained out of it. But when I think of you and the children... That's love, Zara said softly. Love and fear are inseparable. The more you love something, the more terrifying the thought of losing it. Then I must love you very much. Because I'm terrified. She smiled, that warm, radiant smile he remembered from a lifetime ago. Good, she said. Then we're even. And there, in the moonlit garden, surrounded by the ghosts of 7 stolen years, they kissed. It was soft at first. Tentative. 2 people relearning each other's rhythms. But then something shifted. Minho pulled her closer, his arms wrapping around her like he would never let go. She melted into him, her fingers tangling in his hair, her body remembering what her mind had tried so hard to forget. The kiss deepened, became something more. Something that promised everything they had lost and everything they might yet find. When they finally broke apart, both of them were breathless. Stay with me, Minho said. Not just tonight. Forever. Let me wake up beside you every morning. Let me watch our children grow up together. Let me spend the rest of my life making up for the years we lost. Minho. I know it's complicated. I know there are people trying to destroy us. But I don't care. I'll fight them all. I'll burn down my empire if that's what it takes. Just, please, don't leave me again. I'm not going anywhere. Zara cupped his face in her hands, her eyes meeting his with fierce certainty. Not this time. Whatever comes next, we face it together. 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 But even as they made their promises, somewhere in Seoul, Prosecutor Choi Yun-suk was preparing his final move. He sat in his office, surrounded by files and photographs and evidence that would shake the foundations of Korea's most powerful criminal empire. On his desk was a photograph of Kai and Mina, side by side, their identical faces turned toward each other. And beneath the photograph, a press release. Ready to be sent to every media outlet in the country. Tomorrow, Choi murmured to himself, his smile sharp as a knife. Tomorrow the Black Tiger falls. Devastating emotional cliffhanger. The clock on Minho's bedside table read 3:47 a.m. when his phone screamed to life. Daesung's voice, urgent and afraid. Chairman. You need to see the news. Right now. Minho grabbed the remote. The television flickered to life. And there on every channel were the faces of his children. Kai and Mina. Side by side. The headline beneath them read, Crime Lord's Secret Twins. The scandal that will destroy the Kong Empire. A news anchor's voice, cold and clinical. Breaking news tonight. Allegations have emerged that one of South Korea's most powerful businessmen, Kong Min-ho, long rumored to have ties to organized crime, has been hiding a devastating family secret. Sources claim that 7 years ago, Chairman Kang's own mother orchestrated the separation of his twin children, concealing the existence of one child while the television shattered. Min-ho stood with his fist still extended, blood dripping from his knuckles where the glass had cut him. Zara appeared in the doorway, her face pale. The children, she whispered. They'll see this. Everyone will know. Everyone will. Pack a bag, Min-ho said, his voice terrifyingly calm. We leave in 10 minutes. Where are we going? He turned to face her, and in his eyes she saw something she had never seen before. Not anger. Not fear. We're going to end this, he said. Tonight. The blood from Minho's knuckles dripped steadily onto the hardwood floor, each drop landing like a small detonation in the silence of the room. He didn't feel the pain. Pain was a language he had learned to ignore decades ago, beaten into silence by a childhood spent under the iron rule of a mother who believed that strength was the only currency worth possessing. Physical pain was nothing. A nuisance. A whisper. But this. Watching his children's faces broadcast across every screen in the country, their identities stripped bare, their private trauma served up as public spectacle. This was agony. This was the kind of pain that tattoos couldn't armor against. Min-ho. Zara's voice pulled him back from the edge. She stood in the doorway in a loose nightgown, her braids pulled back, her dark eyes wide with the kind of controlled terror that only mothers understand. The children. We need to check on the children first. He nodded once, wrapping his bleeding hand in a discarded shirt without looking at it. They moved through the hammock together, their footsteps urgent on the wooden floors, past the moonlit garden visible through paper screens, past the ancestral scrolls hanging in the hallway, toward the room where their twins slept. Minho opened the door slowly. The room was dark. 2 small beds had been pushed together at Kai's insistence, because the boy had declared on the first night that he would never sleep apart from his sister again. Now both children lay curled toward each other, their identical faces peaceful in sleep, their small hands almost touching across the gap between the mattresses. Kai's chest rose and fell steadily. Mina's lips moved slightly, whispering something in a dream. Safe. For now. Zara pressed her hand to her mouth, stifling a sob. Minho stood behind her, his uninjured hand resting on her shoulder, his jaw clenched so tight the tendons in his neck stood out like cables. The tiger tattoo seemed to pulse beneath his skin, the creature's eye visible just above his collar, watching, waiting, ready to strike. They don't know yet, Zara whispered. When they wake up, when they see. They won't see anything. I'll make sure of it. How? It's on every channel. It'll be on every phone, every computer, every. I said I'll handle it. His voice was quiet. Final. The voice of a man who had built an empire by making impossible things happen through sheer, terrifying will. Zara looked up at him. What are you going to do? Whatever is necessary. 45 minutes later, the hammock had been transformed into a command center. Minho's most trusted operatives had arrived in silence, moving through the pre-dawn darkness like shadows given form. They set up encrypted communication systems in the study, secured the perimeter with additional guards, and established a digital monitoring station that tracked every mention of the Kong name across Korean media and social platforms. The numbers were devastating. Within an hour of the broadcast, the story had been picked up by every major news outlet in the country. Social media was erupting. The hashtag #KongTwins was trending nationally. Photographs of Kai and Mina, obtained from the school's internal systems, a breach that made Minho's blood boil, were being shared millions of times. But it was the narrative that cut deepest. The story being told wasn't about a mother's sacrifice or a grandmother's cruelty. It was about a crime lord's dark secret. The press had taken Choi Yun-suk's carefully constructed version of events and amplified it, painting Minho as the architect of the conspiracy rather than its victim. Sources close to the investigation alleged that Kang Minho knowingly participated in the separation of his twin children, abandoning one while raising the other as his sole heir. The mother, identified as Nigerian national Zara Adeyemi, is believed to have fled South Korea under duress, possibly threatened by members of Kang's criminal organization. Prosecutor Choi Yun-suk has announced that a formal investigation is underway, with multiple indictments expected within the week. Minho read each report with the same expression: cold, analytical, detached. The expression of a man cataloging threats and calculating responses. "Get me everything on Choi Yun-suk," he said to Dae-sung, who stood at attention despite the hour, his own guilt from the earlier interrogation evident in the rigid set of his shoulders. "Every case he's prosecuted. Every connection he's cultivated. Every ambition he's harbored. Already working on it, Chairman. But there's something else you should know." "What?" "The leak from the school. The photographs, the internal records, they didn't come from Sungjin. He didn't have access to those systems. Someone else provided them to Choi. Someone inside the school? Someone inside your organization. Someone with access to our surveillance feeds." Minho's eyes narrowed. "We monitor the school through our own systems." "Yes. And someone accessed those systems 3 days ago using credentials that should have been deactivated months ago." "Whose credentials?" Dae-sung hesitated. "Your mother's." The silence that followed was absolute. Park Soo-yeon had been dead for 2 years. Her access to all Kong organization systems had been revoked upon her death, or so Minho had been assured. "Someone reactivated her credentials," Minho said quietly. "Someone who knew her access codes. Someone who had been inside her network." "Yes, Chairman. Which means my mother's conspiracy didn't die with her. It evolved. adapted, found new leadership. That's my assessment as well. Minho turned to the window. Dawn was beginning to break over Seoul, the first pale light touching the peaks of Bukhansan Mountain in the distance. The city was waking up to headlines about his family, about his children, about secrets that should have remained buried. There's a puppet master, he said. Someone who inherited my mother's network. Someone who has been waiting for exactly this moment, when the truth about the twins emerged, to strike. Why wait? Because the twins are the detonator. Without them there's no scandal, no leverage, no way to destroy me publicly while maintaining the appearance of legal legitimacy. Choi Yun-suk is just a weapon. The real enemy is whoever pointed him at us. Daesung processed this. How do we find them? Follow the money. My mother's network required funding, bribes, surveillance, operational costs. That funding didn't stop when she died. Someone has been maintaining the infrastructure. Find the financial trail and we find the puppet master. Understood. And Daesung. Yes, Chairman. You owe me a debt. A debt measured in 7 years and 2 children's lives. This is how you begin to repay it. Daesung bowed deeply. I will not fail you again. Morning arrived with a cruelty that felt almost deliberate. Zara had managed to block all television access and confiscate any devices the children might use to access the internet. But the world outside the Hanek's walls was not so easily controlled. At 7:15 a.m. Kai's school called. We regret to inform you that, due to the current media situation, we believe it would be in the best interest of young Master Kong to remain home until further notice. The school has been receiving calls from journalists, and several reporters have been observed outside the gates. Minho ended the call without responding. At 7:45 a.m. Zara's employer called. Miss Adeyemi, we've received numerous inquiries about your personal life. I'm afraid that given the sensitivity of the situation, we'll need to place you on administrative leave pending. Zara thanked them quietly and hung up. At 8:30 a.m., the first reporters arrived at the gates of the Hanek. Minho watched them from the study window, a growing crowd of cameras and microphones and hungry faces, all pressing against the property line like predators testing a fence. Vultures, he murmured. Behind him Zara sat at the desk, her head in her hands. My family in Nigeria. They'll see this. My mother, my brother, they'll be bombarded with questions. I've already dispatched people to them. She looked up. What? Security teams. Discreet. Professional. They'll ensure your family isn't harassed by the media. You sent security to my family in Nigeria? Within the hour after the broadcast. Your mother is in Ibadan, correct? And your brother in Abuja? Zara stared at him. How do you know where my family lives? I've known since yesterday. I had them located as a precaution. A precaution against what? Against exactly this. If someone is trying to destroy us, they might target your family as leverage. I won't allow that. Zara wanted to be angry, at the presumption, at the surveillance, at the casual deployment of resources that reminded her of exactly who and what he was. But she couldn't. Because beneath the cold efficiency she recognized something she had seen only rarely in him. Protectiveness. Not the possessive kind. The kind that came from knowing what it meant to lose the people you loved. Thank you, she said quietly. He nodded once. Then the sound they had been dreading. Small footsteps in the hallway. Kai appeared first, rubbing sleep from his eyes, his pajamas rumpled, his dark curls wild. Behind him, holding his hand, was Mina, equally disheveled, her eyes still soft with dreams. Father. Kai's voice was small. Why are there people outside the gate? Minho crouched down, bringing himself to his son's level. There are some people who want to take photographs and ask questions. But you don't need to worry about them. Why do they want photographs of us? Because sometimes people are curious about other people's lives. But why our lives? Because your grandmother separated you from your sister. Because your father is a feared criminal. Because your mother spent 7 years running from the truth. Because your faces are now on every screen in the country. Because our family is special, Minho said instead. And special families sometimes attract attention. Kai considered this with the grave seriousness that 7-year-olds bring to important matters. Is it because I found Mina? Partly. But that's a good thing. Finding your sister should be a good thing. Minho's heart cracked. It is a good thing, he agreed, his voice rough. The best thing. And those people outside. They can't change that. No one can change that. Mina stepped forward, her small hand reaching for her father's face. She traced the line of his jaw with her fingers, then touched the edge of the tiger tattoo visible on his neck. The tiger is watching, she said solemnly. Yes, Min-ho agreed. The tiger is always watching. Then we're safe. She nodded with absolute certainty. Tigers protect their cubs. Choi Yun-suk sat in his office at the Seoul Central District Prosecutor's office, watching the media firestorm he had created with the quiet satisfaction of a man watching dominoes fall. He was 43 years old, lean and sharp-featured, with the kind of ambitious eyes that never stopped calculating. He had spent his career building a reputation as a crusader against corruption, taking down politicians and businessmen with equal relish. But this, the Kong case, would be his masterpiece. The Black Tiger. The most feared man in South Korea, reduced to tabloid fodder. His phone rang. A private number. Is it done? The voice on the other end asked. It's everywhere. Every channel, every platform. By tonight, public opinion will be firmly against Kong Min-ho. And the indictments? I'll present them to the judge tomorrow. Multiple charges. Conspiracy, fraud, child endangerment. We'll request that the children be placed in protective custody pending investigation. Both children. Both. Once we have custody, Kong will be forced to cooperate. He'll do anything to get his children back. Good. And the woman? Adeyemi. She'll be called as a witness. Her testimony will be the linchpin of the case against Kong. She won't cooperate willingly. She won't need to. Once she sees the alternative, losing her daughter, being deported, having her family in Nigeria investigated, she'll do exactly as we want. A pause on the line. Then, you're certain Kong can't trace this back to me? You're invisible. The evidence trail leads to his dead mother, to Dae-sung, to Sung-jin. Your name appears nowhere. Keep it that way. Of course. But I do have one concern. What? Kong Min-ho is not a man who surrenders. He's been cornered before and he's always found a way out. If he discovers who is truly behind this. He won't. By the time he realizes what's happening, it will be too late. His empire will be dismantled. His children will be in state custody. His reputation will be destroyed. And the woman he loves will be on a plane back to Lagos. And then, Prosecutor Choi, you will be promoted. And I will finally have what I've wanted for 20 years. Which is everything Kong Min-ho built. Every business. Every connection. Every cent. He took it from my family. I'm simply taking it back. The line went dead. Choi set down his phone and stared at the wall of evidence before him. Photographs, financial records, witness statements, surveillance footage. He had been told that this was about justice. But somewhere, in the part of his conscience that still functioned, he knew the truth. This was about revenge. And the person pulling his strings was far more dangerous than Kong Min-ho had ever been. Min-ho's investigators worked through the day and into the night. The financial trail left by Park Soo-yeon's network was labyrinthine. Hidden accounts, shell companies, encrypted transfers routing through banks in Singapore, Switzerland, and the Cayman Islands. But Dae-sung was thorough. He always had been. And at 11:47 p.m. he found it. A single payment made 2 months after Park Soo-yeon's death, from one of her hidden accounts to an entity called Jinhee Holdings. Jinhee Holdings was a small investment firm with no public profile, no website, no listed employees. It existed only on paper. A ghost company designed to receive and redistribute funds. But the company's registration documents listed a single director. A name that made Dae-sung's blood run cold. He picked up the phone. Chairman. I found something. You need to see this immediately. Min-ho stood in the study, the document illuminated on the screen before him. The name stared back at him like a ghost. Director, Kong Jun. His uncle. His father's younger brother. The man who had been exiled from the Kong family 20 years ago after a failed attempt to seize control of the family's business empire. The man who had been stripped of his name, his inheritance, his connections. The man who had sworn on the day he was cast out, that he would return. He's been using Mother's network, Min-ho said quietly. He inherited it. Perhaps she gave it to him before she died. Perhaps he took it after. The financial records suggest they were in contact for years, Dae-sung confirmed. Your mother and your uncle. Working together. Impossible. He hated him. She was the one who convinced my father to exile him. Or she wanted you to believe that. Chairman, look at this. Dae-sung pulled up another set of documents. Correspondence encrypted but now decrypted between Park Soo-yeon and Kang Jae-won spanning over a decade. The messages revealed a relationship far more complex than animosity. They revealed a partnership. A conspiracy that predated the twins. A plan years in the making to reshape the Kang Empire from within. Min-ho read the messages in silence. Each one was a revelation. Each one was a betrayal. His mother had not merely separated the twins to protect the family's reputation or to remove an inconvenient foreign woman from her son's life. She had done it as part of a larger strategy. One designed to keep Min-ho isolated, emotionally crippled and dependent on the advisors she had placed around him. Advisors who answered to her. And through her to Kang Jae-won. She was weakening me, Min-ho murmured. Systematically. For 20 years. Taking away everyone I loved. Everyone I trusted. Making me believe I was alone so that I would rely on her people. And when she died, Jae-won stepped in to finish the job. The news leak. The prosecutor. The attempt to take my children. It's all him. Yes, Chairman. Min-ho's hands clenched. The dragon tattoo rippled across his knuckles, the ink seeming to darken with his rage. Where is he? We're working on that. He's been careful. Multiple identities, frequent moves, no fixed address. But he's in Korea. The communication patterns confirm it. Find him. We will. Dae-sung. Yes, Chairman. When you find him, don't engage. Don't approach. Don't let him know he's been discovered. I want to look my uncle in the eye when this ends. The following morning, something unexpected happened. Min-ho was in the kitchen making breakfast, an activity that still surprised Zara, watching this feared underworld figure cracking eggs and slicing fruit with the careful precision of a man accustomed to handling far more dangerous instruments. When the security system chimed. A visitor at the gate. Not a reporter. Not police. A man. Tall, dark-skinned, well-dressed, carrying nothing but a leather briefcase. Min-ho studied the security feed. Do you know him? Zara looked at the screen and her face went through a complicated series of emotions. Surprise, relief, anxiety. That's Daniel, she said quietly. Daniel Okafor. He's a lawyer. He's been helping me for the last 3 years. Helping you with what? Legal matters. Immigration paperwork. Mina's school enrollment. He's the one who helped us relocate to Seoul. How do you know him? We met in Busan. He's Nigerian, works at an international law firm here. He's been a good friend. Good friend. Min-ho's jaw tightened almost imperceptibly. The dragon scales along his neck seemed to shift as the muscles beneath them tensed. Let him in, he said. Daniel Okafor entered the hanok with the confident stride of a man accustomed to hostile environments. He was handsome, undeniably so, with warm brown eyes, a disarming smile and the kind of effortless charm that made people trust him immediately. He was also, Min-ho noted, the exact opposite of himself. Where Min-ho was cold, Daniel was warm. Where Min-ho was controlled, Daniel was expressive. Where Min-ho inspired fear, Daniel inspired comfort. And he was looking at Zara with the unmistakable tenderness of a man who felt something far deeper than friendship. Zara. Daniel crossed the room and took her hands in his. I came as soon as I heard the news. Are you okay? Is Mina okay? We're fine. We're safe. Zara squeezed his hands then stepped back, aware of Min-ho's gaze burning into the back of her head. Daniel, this is Kang Min-ho. Kai and Mina's father. Daniel turned to face Min-ho. The two men regarded each other in silence. It was the kind of silence that contained entire conversations. Assessments, judgments, challenges, all exchanged through eye contact and body language. Daniel spoke first, extending his hand. Mr. Kang. I've heard a great deal about you. Min-ho took the hand. His grip was firm. Perhaps slightly too firm. The tattooed knuckles stood out against Daniel's smooth skin. And I've heard nothing about you, Min-ho replied. Daniel's smile didn't waver. I'm Zara's lawyer. And her friend. I'm here to help. We have lawyers. I'm sure you do. But I'm here because Zara trusts me. And given what's happening, the media exposure, the prosecutor's investigation, the potential custody proceedings. She's going to need someone in her corner who understands both international law and Korean family court. She has me. With respect, Mr. Kong, you are currently the subject of a criminal investigation. Your involvement in Zara's legal matters could be seen as coercion or undue influence. She needs independent counsel. Minho's eyes narrowed. You're very well prepared for someone who just heard the news this morning. I've been preparing for something like this for 3 years. Since the day Zara told me about the twins. The room went very still. She told you, Minho said flatly. About the twins. She needed legal advice. The separation, the threats from your mother, the hidden birth records, all of it had legal implications that she needed to understand. And you've known this for 3 years. Yes. And you didn't think to contact me? To inform the father that his daughter existed. Daniel's expression shifted. For the first time, something harder appeared beneath the warmth. Zara asked me not to. She was terrified of what would happen if you found out. Terrified of your organization, your power, with respect, your reputation. She believed that contacting you would put Mina in danger. And you agreed with that assessment? I trusted my client's judgment. Your client. Minho tasted the word. Is that all she is? The question hung in the air, sharp as a blade. Daniel held his gaze. She is my client and my friend. Nothing more. Your eyes say otherwise. Zara stepped between them, literally placing her body in the gap between the two men. Stop. Both of you. This isn't the time for whatever this is. Our children's faces are on national television. A prosecutor is trying to take them away from us. And somewhere out there, someone is orchestrating all of it. She looked at Minho. Daniel is here to help. Accept it. Then she looked at Daniel. Minho is their father. He has a right to be protective. Accept that. Both men continued their silent standoff for another moment. Then Daniel inclined his head. She's right. We have bigger problems. Minho said nothing. But he stepped back. And when he turned away, Zara caught a glimpse of something she had rarely seen from the black tiger. Jealousy. Not the explosive kind. The quiet, consuming kind. The kind that burned slowly and never fully went out. He filed it away and focused on what mattered. Protecting her children. The next 72 hours were a blur of strategy, fear, and barely contained chaos. Daniel proved his worth almost immediately. He filed emergency motions to block the prosecutor's custody petition, arguing that the children were in no danger and that removing them from their parents would cause severe psychological harm. He contacted international human rights organizations to draw attention to the case, framing it not as a criminal investigation but as a family being torn apart by political ambition. He was brilliant. And Minho hated him for it. Not because Daniel was wrong. Not because his strategies were flawed. But because every time Daniel spoke to Zara, every time he touched her arm in reassurance, every time she looked at him with trust and gratitude, something dark and territorial stirred in Minho's chest. He had no right to it. He knew that. 7 years. Zara had been alone for 7 years, and this man had been there when Minho hadn't. Had helped her when Minho couldn't. Had earned her trust through years of patient, reliable presence. But knowing he had no right to the jealousy didn't make it disappear. It just made it burn hotter. On the third night, Minho found Daniel alone in the study reviewing case files. Okafor. Daniel looked up. Mr. Kong. Do you love her? The question was delivered without preamble or pretense. Daniel set down his pen. For a long moment he studied Minho's face. The cold eyes, the clenched jaw, the tattoos visible at his collar and wrists, the aura of barely contained violence. Yes, he said simply. I do. Minho's expression didn't change. She's extraordinary, Daniel continued. She's brave, intelligent, compassionate. She raised Mina alone in a foreign country while living in constant fear. She never complained. She never broke. She just kept going day after day, year after year for her daughter. You didn't answer my question. I answered exactly your question. Yes, I love her. I've loved her for 2 years. But I never told her because she made it clear from the beginning that her heart belonged to someone else. Someone else. You, Mr. Kong. She never said your name, not until the twins were discovered, but I always knew there was someone. A ghost she carried with her. A man she couldn't forget no matter how hard she tried. Minho was silent. I could have told her how I felt, Daniel said. I could have tried to make her forget you. But that would have been selfish. And she deserved better than a man who loved her selfishly. So you just waited? I waited. And I helped. And I watched her look at old photographs when she thought no one was watching, tears running down her face, whispering a name I couldn't hear. Minho's hands clenched at his sides, the dragon tattoo tightening across his knuckles. I'm not your enemy, Daniel said quietly. I'm hers. And right now she needs both of us. So whatever you feel about me, whatever territorial instinct is telling you to throw me out of this house, set it aside. For her. For the children. A long, charged silence. Then Minho nodded once. For the children, he agreed. He turned and walked out of the study. In the hallway he paused, pressing his forehead against the cool wall, his eyes closed, his breathing controlled. Daniel Okafor loved Zara. And Minho couldn't blame him. Because Zara was the kind of woman who inspired love simply by existing. The kind of woman who made damaged men believe they could be whole again. She had done it for him 7 years ago. And apparently she had done it for another man since. Minho straightened. He would not lose her. Not again. Not to a prosecutor, not to a conspiracy, and not to a good man with warm eyes and an honest heart. He would fight for her. With everything he had. With everything he was. Despite every precaution, the truth reached the children. It happened on the 4th day when Kai overheard 2 security guards talking outside the kitchen window. They were speaking in rapid Korean, unaware that the boy was sitting just inside, building a Lego spaceship with his sister. His own mother did it. Separated the twins at birth. The girl was supposed to disappear forever. And the uncle. Kang Jae-won. They're saying he's behind the media leak. Prosecutor wants to take both kids into custody. Chairman is furious. Kai's hands stopped moving. Mina looked at him. What's wrong? They're talking about us. Who? The guards. They said someone separated us. When we were babies. Someone called our grandmother. Mina's face went pale. Grandmother? Father's mama? Yes. She made it so we couldn't be together. She told Mama to go away and never come back. Why? I don't know. But they also said someone wants to take us away. Take us where? I don't know that either. The 2 children stared at each other, identical faces reflecting identical fear. Then Mina's expression hardened. It was remarkable, watching a 7-year-old girl's face shift from vulnerability to determination, her jaw setting in a way that was eerily reminiscent of their father. No one is taking us anywhere, she said firmly. We just found each other. I'm not losing my brother. And I'm not losing my sister. Then we have to do something. Like what? Mina thought for a moment. Then her eyes lit up. We tell everyone the truth. The whole truth. Not the lie that the TV people are saying. The real truth. How? Mama's friend. Daniel. He has a camera in his briefcase. I saw it. He uses it for his work. You want to make a video? I want to tell our story. In our own words. Before anyone else can tell it for us. Kai considered this. Father won't like it. Father wants to protect us. But sometimes the best way to protect yourself is to be brave. Where did you learn that? Mama. She says it all the time. Be brave, Mina. The world is big and scary, but you are bigger and braver than you know. Kai smiled. I wish I had known Mama growing up. You have her now. We all have each other now. Mina took his hand. So let's be brave. They found Daniel's camera in his briefcase. A small, professional-grade video recorder he used for depositions and witness statements. Neither child fully understood the technology, but Kai had watched enough YouTube videos to know the basics. They set it up in the garden, propped against a stack of books on the stone bench by the koi pond. The afternoon light filtered through the pine trees, casting dappled shadows across their faces. 2 children. Identical faces. Looking directly into the lens. Kai spoke first. Hi. My name is Kai Kong. I'm 7 years old. And my name is Mina Adeyemi. I'm 7 years old too. We're twins. We just found out. A few days ago I walked into my school library and saw a girl who looked just like me. I asked her, why do you have my face? And I didn't know what to say. Because I'd never met him before. I didn't know I had a brother. We were separated when we were babies. Our grandmother, our father's mother, she made our mama go away. She said bad things would happen if mama stayed. So mama took Mina and I stayed with father. Mama never wanted to leave Kai. She told me that. She said every night she looked at the stars and said a prayer for the baby she had to leave behind. Father didn't know about Mina. He was told mama had left him. He was told she didn't love him. But that was a lie. It was all lies. Grandmother told lies to keep us apart. Kai's voice wavered. The people on TV are saying bad things about our family. They're saying father did something wrong. But he didn't. He didn't know. He was tricked. Just like mama was tricked. All we want, Mina continued, her voice steady despite the tears gathering in her eyes, is to be a family. So, we want to live together and go to school together and eat breakfast together and fight about stupid stuff and make up and be normal. But there are people trying to take us away. A man, a prosecutor, he wants to put us somewhere else. Away from mama and father. We don't want to go somewhere else. We want to stay together. Please. That final word, please, spoken in unison by two 7-year-old children with tears streaming down their identical faces. It was the most powerful thing either of them would ever say. They didn't know how to upload the video to the internet. But they knew someone who did. Uncle June. The bodyguard looked down at the two children standing before him, holding a camera they definitely should not have had. Young master. Young miss. What is this? We made a video, Kai said. We need it to go on the internet. Absolutely not. Your father would. Please, Uncle June. Mina stepped forward, her eyes huge and pleading. People are saying bad things about our family. They're lying. We just want to tell the truth. June stared at the camera. Then at the children. Then at the camera again. He had served Kang Min-ho for 12 years. He had followed orders without question, carried out tasks that weighed on his conscience, done things in the dark that he would never speak of in the light. But he had also watched Kai grow up. He had carried the boy on his shoulders, taught him to ride a bicycle, sat beside his bed during thunderstorms. And now there was Mina too. This fierce, gentle girl who had appeared out of nowhere and immediately claimed a piece of his heart. If your father finds out I helped you with this, June said slowly, he will kill me. You understand that? He won't kill you, Kai assured him. He likes you too much. He'll be very angry. He's already angry. He's been angry for days. This might actually make him less angry. June looked at the camera one more time. Then he sighed. Give it to me. The video went viral within hours. Not because of production quality or strategic distribution. It went viral because it was real. Two children sitting in a garden, telling the truth in their own words, with tears on their faces and hope in their voices. The response was immediate and overwhelming. Within 12 hours, the video had been viewed over 30 million times. The hashtag #LetThemBeFamily replaced hashtag #KongTwins as the top trending topic in South Korea, then across Asia, then globally. Public opinion, which had been firmly against Min-ho just days earlier, began to shift. News outlets that had eagerly published Choi Yoon-suk's version of events now ran stories about the children's video, about the grandmother's conspiracy, about a mother's sacrifice and a father's unknowing loss. International media picked it up. BBC, CNN, Al Jazeera, NHK, all ran segments featuring the twins' video alongside analysis of the case. Social media exploded with support. These children just want to be together. How is that controversial? The real criminal isn't the father. It's the grandmother who tore this family apart. That prosecutor should be investigated, not this family. The pressure on Choi Yoon-suk became intense. His office was flooded with calls. His colleagues questioned his motives. His superiors demanded explanations. And the puppet master behind it all, Kang Ji-won, watched from the shadows as his carefully constructed plan began to crumble. Min-ho's reaction to the video was not what anyone expected. Zara found him in the study watching it on the laptop, the screen illuminating his face in the dark room. The children's voices filled the space. All we want is to be a family. Please. Min-ho's face was wet. Zara stood in the doorway, unsure whether to enter. She had never seen him like this. Stripped of armor, stripped of control, stripped of everything that made him the Black Tiger. He was just a father. Watching his children beg the world to let them be loved. They're braver than I am, he said quietly, not looking up. Both of them. Braver than I've ever been. They're your children. They're yours. That bravery, that fearlessness, that comes from you. It comes from both of us. He finally looked at her. I should be angry. They stole a camera, made an unauthorized video, had June upload it without permission. It's a security nightmare. But I've never been prouder of anyone in my entire life. Zara crossed the room and sat beside him. Their shoulders touched. Neither pulled away. The public response is overwhelming, she said. Daniel says the prosecutor's office is under enormous pressure to drop the custody petition. Daniel says. The name came out carefully neutral. Min-ho. I know. I'm being childish. A little. He's in love with you. Zara was quiet for a moment. I know. You knew. I've known for a while. He never said it directly, but I knew. Do you love him? I love him as a friend. As someone who was there for me when I had no one. But I was never in love with him. She turned to face Min-ho, her eyes steady. I was never in love with anyone but you. Even when I hated you. Even when I thought you had abandoned me. Even when I told myself every night that I needed to forget you and move on. You hated me. Sometimes. On the bad nights. When Mina was sick and I had no money for medicine. When the loneliness was so heavy I could barely breathe. When I looked at my daughter and saw your face and wanted to scream. I'm sorry. I know. I would have been there. If I had known. I know that too. Now. She took his hand, lacing her fingers through his. But we can't change the past. We can only decide what happens next. What happens next is that I destroy the man who's been orchestrating all of this. Your uncle. My uncle. The man who has been pulling strings from the shadows, using my mother's network, using a corrupt prosecutor, using our children as weapons. How? By doing what I do best. Min-ho's eyes hardened, the predator resurging beneath the father. By being exactly the monster they think I am. The plan was elegant in its simplicity. Min-ho didn't need to find Kang Jae-won. He needed Jae-won to come to him. And the bait was irresistible. The complete unredacted files from Park Soo-yeon's private archives. Everything the old woman had accumulated over decades. Evidence of corruption, blackmail material, financial records, surveillance data. A treasure trove of secrets that could be used to control politicians, manipulate markets and destroy reputations. The files were real. Min-ho had discovered them during the investigation, hidden in a safe deposit box at a bank his mother had used under an alias. They were also the one thing Kang Jae-won needed to complete his takeover. Without them his conspiracy was incomplete. He had the prosecutor, the media coverage, the public narrative. But to truly seize control of the Kang empire he needed the blackmail files. Without them the politicians and business leaders who had been loyal to Park Soo-yeon would never switch their allegiance. Min-ho leaked word through carefully selected channels that the files had been found and were being kept at a specific location. A warehouse in Yongsan used by the Kang organization for sensitive storage. Then he waited. 3 nights later the trap was sprung. Jae-won came personally. He couldn't trust anyone else with something this important. He arrived at midnight accompanied by 4 armed men, moving through the warehouse district with the cautious precision of someone who had spent years operating in shadows. They bypassed the external security, or thought they did. They entered the warehouse or thought they did. They found the files or thought they did. And then the lights came on. Kang Min-ho stood at the far end of the warehouse, flanked by 20 of his most trusted operatives. Behind him, on a massive screen, surveillance footage played on a loop. Footage of Jae-won's men entering the building, of Jae-won himself giving orders, of every incriminating moment captured in crystal-clear resolution. Jae-won froze. For a long moment, the 2 men regarded each other across the length of the warehouse. They hadn't seen each other in 20 years. Min-ho had been 19 the last time, a cold, angry young man watching his uncle being stripped of everything and cast out. Jae-won had been 35, raging against the injustice of being punished for his ambition. Now they were older. Harder. Carrying the weight of everything those 20 years had contained. Uncle, Min-ho said. Nephew. Jae-won's voice was surprisingly steady. I see your mother's talent for theatrics wasn't wasted. And I see her talent for manipulation was shared. Jae-won's jaw tightened. You always were her favorite. Even when she was destroying you, she loved you best. She had an unusual way of showing love. We all do in this family. Jae-won straightened, his fear giving way to the stubborn pride that had always been his defining trait. I suppose you've figured it all out? Most of it. The partnership with my mother. The network she built and you inherited. The prosecutor you cultivated. The media campaign against me. And the twins. Jae-won tilted his head. Did you figure out my role in that? Something dangerous flickered in Minho's eyes. Tell me. Your mother wanted to separate the children because she feared what they represented. The dilution of the Kong bloodline, the scandal of a mixed-race heir. But I wanted them separated for a different reason. Which was leverage. A child hidden from a powerful man is the most potent weapon imaginable. As long as Mina existed somewhere in the world unknown to you, she could be revealed at the perfect moment to cause maximum damage. You kept track of them. Zara and Mina. For 7 years. I knew every move they made, every city they lived in, every school Mina attended. I was waiting for the right moment. And that moment was now. The empire you built is stronger than ever. Your influence stretches across Asia. If I had struck earlier when you were still consolidating power, I might have failed. But now, at the height of your success with your reputation as an untouchable businessman firmly established, now is when the fall would be most devastating. Minho stepped closer, his footsteps echoing in the vast space. His operatives moved with him, maintaining their formation, their presence a silent reminder of the power at his command. You miscalculated, Minho said. Did I? Your face is on every screen in the country. The prosecutor is preparing indictments. Your children's identities have been exposed to the world. And the world has rallied behind them. Minho stopped just out of arm's reach. You thought exposing the twins would destroy me. Instead, it humanized me. For the first time in my career, people don't just fear me, they sympathize with me. A father separated from his daughter. A family torn apart by conspiracy. You gave the public a story they couldn't resist, uncle. But you made the mistake of casting me as the victim instead of the villain. Jae-won's face tightened. The prosecutor's case is collapsing, Minho continued. Public pressure is forcing his superiors to investigate his methods. The media has turned on him. And every piece of evidence you fed him leads back to a single source, Park Soo-yeon's network. A network that I can now prove you controlled. You can't prove. Jinhee Holdings. Your company. Your accounts. Your fingerprints on everything my mother built. Minho produced a slim folder and held it up. Financial records. Communication logs. Operational directives. All of it traced back to you. Jae-won's composure finally cracked. Those records were encrypted. There's no way you could have. Daesung is very thorough. Daesung works for me. Daesung worked for my mother. Who worked with you. But loyalties shift, uncle. Especially when the alternative is facing my displeasure. Jae-won looked at his 4 armed men. They hadn't moved. They were hopelessly outnumbered and they knew it. What do you want? Jae-won asked, his voice finally betraying the fear he'd been hiding. I want what you took from me. 7 years. 2 children who should have grown up together. A woman who should have been by my side. A family that should have existed from the beginning. You can't get those years back. No. But I can make sure no one ever takes another day from us. Minho nodded to Daesung. 2 operatives stepped forward and secured Jae-won's arms. You're being detained, Minho said. Not by me, I don't need that satisfaction. By the authorities. The real authorities who have been provided with evidence of your conspiracy, your financial crimes, your manipulation of a public prosecutor, and your role in the forced separation of 2 children. The authorities answer to me. They answered to you. Past tense. Your prosecutors have been exposed. Your political allies have been presented with evidence that makes continued association with you very unwise. And the media. Minho almost smiled. The media loves a good story about a villain being brought to justice. You'll regret this. I regret many things, uncle. This will not be one of them. He turned and walked away. Behind him, Kang Jae-won was led out of the warehouse in handcuffs, his 20-year quest for revenge ending not with the destruction of an empire, but with the quiet, methodical dismantling of his own. Choi Yun-suk's world collapsed within 48 hours. An internal investigation triggered by public outcry and media pressure revealed that the prosecutor had been receiving information from an organized criminal network, specifically the network run by Kang Jae-won. His office was raided. His files were seized. His phone records showed dozens of calls to numbers linked to Jae-won's operation. The immunity deal he had offered Sung-jin was found to have been unauthorized, a unilateral decision made without the knowledge or approval of his superiors. And the evidence he had used to justify the custody petition was shown to have been obtained through illegal surveillance of a private school, surveillance conducted using reactivated credentials belonging to a deceased woman. Choi was suspended, then formally charged with conspiracy, abuse of power and obstruction of justice. The custody petition was withdrawn. The indictments against Min-ho were dismissed. And the story that had begun with a 7-year-old's innocent question in a school library reached its final, inevitable chapter. There was one final revelation. It came from Baek Jong-soo, the dying man who had first contacted Zara. He had been monitoring the situation from a hospital bed, watching the news coverage with the weary satisfaction of a man seeing his last wish fulfilled. He called Zara one final time. "Miss Adeyemi, I have one more piece of information for you. Something I held back because I wasn't sure you were ready to hear it." "What is it?" "The night your children were born there was a complication. Mina was struggling. The doctors were preparing for emergency surgery. Your blood pressure was dangerously high. There was a moment, a terrible moment, when they weren't sure either of you would survive. I remember. It was the most terrifying night of my life. What you don't know is that Kang Min-ho was there." Silence. "He was in the hospital. He had found out about the birth. I'm not sure how, possibly through a nurse who was loyal to him rather than his mother. He came to the hospital but your room was guarded by Park Soo-yeon's people. They wouldn't let him in. He was there." Zara's voice cracked. "He was there. He stood in the hallway for 6 hours. Waiting. Listening. Terrified. He heard you screaming during the delivery. He heard the doctors calling for assistance. And when it was over, when both you and Mina were stable, he tried to enter the room. What happened?" His mother intercepted him. She told him you didn't want to see him. That you had asked for him to be kept away. That you had already signed documents relinquishing custody of one child in exchange for financial compensation. "That's a lie. I never signed anything." "I know. The documents were forged. Your signature was fabricated. But Min-ho didn't know that. He saw papers with your name on them, in what appeared to be your handwriting, and he believed his mother." Tears streamed down Zara's face. "He was right there. Right outside the room. And she kept him from us. She kept him from you. But before he left, he did something that even she didn't know about." "What?" "He bribed a nurse. Paid her to take a photograph of both babies, both his children, together. The nurse succeeded, but only managed to take a single photograph before she was caught and removed." "A photograph?" "It was hidden among Min-ho's personal effects for years. I believe he still has it. Ask him about it, Miss Adeyemi. Ask him about the photograph he's carried in his wallet for 7 years. That evening Zara found Min-ho in the garden. He was sitting by the koi pond watching the fish move through the dark water, his expression distant. "Min-ho." He looked up. "I need to ask you something." "Anything." "Do you have a photograph? In your wallet? Of 2 babies?" His expression froze. Slowly he reached into his jacket pocket. His hand emerged holding a worn leather wallet. He opened it and from behind his identification card, behind the public face of Chairman Kang Min-ho, he withdrew a small faded photograph. 2 newborn babies. Side by side. Eyes closed. Fists raised. Tiny, perfect, impossibly beautiful. "I bribed a nurse," he said quietly. "The night they were born. My mother's people wouldn't let me into the room and she told me you wanted nothing to do with me. But I couldn't leave without seeing them. Without having something, anything, to prove they were real." Zara took the photograph with trembling hands. "You knew," she whispered. "You knew there were 2. "I knew. For one night I knew." His voice was hollow. "And then my mother showed me the documents. The papers that said you had given up custody, that you had taken money and left. And I told myself that I had been a fool. That the twins, the love, all of it had been a lie. But you kept the photograph. I could never bring myself to destroy it. He looked at her, his eyes raw. I told myself it was evidence. Proof of the deception. But the truth is I kept it because it was all I had left of you. Of us. Of the family we should have been. Zara sat beside him, pressing the photograph against her chest. We are that family, she said. We're here. Right now. All of us. Despite everything they did to keep us apart. 7 years, Zara. I know. 7 years I could have been a father to Mina. 7 years I could have been with you. 7 years of mornings and birthdays and bedtime stories, and we can't get them back. But we have every year after this. Every morning. Every birthday. Every bedtime story. He turned to face her fully. Marry me. The words came out raw and unplanned, with none of the smoothness or calculation that characterized everything else he did. Min-ho. I know it's too soon. I know we have things to work through. I know trust needs to be rebuilt and wounds need to heal and all the rational, reasonable things that reasonable people say. But I don't care about reasonable. I care about you. I care about our children. And I don't want to spend another day pretending that I can live without you. You managed for 7 years. I survived for 7 years. That's not the same as living. Zara looked at the photograph in her hands. 2 babies side by side, separated by a conspiracy but connected by blood. By love. By something stronger than all the cruelty and manipulation that powerful people could devise. Ask me again, she said. What? Ask me again. But this time say it like you mean it. Minho's face softened. The armor fell away, all of it. The cold eyes warmed. The set jaw relaxed. The tiger tattoo on his neck seemed less like a symbol of fear and more like a mark of survival. He took both her hands in his tattooed fingers gentle around hers. Zara Adeyemi. I have loved you since the moment I first saw you. I was too stubborn, too proud, and too broken to protect that love when it mattered most. But I'm asking you now, with nothing to offer but a damaged heart and a promise that I will spend every remaining day of my life earning the trust one should never have lost. Will you marry me? She looked into his eyes. She saw the man she had fallen in love with at 23. She saw the father who had held a faded photograph against his chest every night for 7 years. She saw the monster and the man, the tiger and the tears, the darkness and the light. And she said yes. The wedding was held in the garden of the Hannock on a crisp autumn morning, 3 months after 2 children had met in a school library and changed everything. It was small. Intimate. Nothing like the grand spectacle that a man of Minho's wealth and status could have arranged. He didn't want spectacle. He wanted family. Zara's mother flew in from Ibadan, a warm, generous woman named Adunni who took one look at Minho and said, "So you are the one who made my daughter cry for 7 years." "Yes, ma'am." "And now you wish to marry her?" "More than anything." Adunni studied him, his severe face, his tattoos, his imposing presence, and then smiled. "Good. Because my daughter deserves a man who will move mountains for her." "Can you move mountains?" "I can try. Trying is not enough. You must succeed. Then I will succeed. See that you do." She patted his cheek, a gesture so maternal, so unexpected that it nearly broke him. "Welcome to the family, son." Zara's brother Emeka came from Abuja. Her sister Kayamika came from Lagos with her 3 children, who immediately bonded with Kai and Mina over a shared love of animated movies and the absolute conviction that adults were strange creatures who made life unnecessarily complicated. On Minho's side, the guest list was smaller. June, his faithful bodyguard, stood as his best man. A handful of trusted associates attended, men and women who had earned their place in his inner circle through years of loyalty. And Daniel Okafor. He came because Zara asked him to. He wore a gray suit and a smile that almost concealed the ache beneath it. When Minho saw him arrive, the 2 men exchanged a look that contained an entire unspoken conversation. "Thank you for taking care of them. I would do it again." "I know." Daniel found his seat and sat quietly through the ceremony, watching the woman he loved marry another man with the grace of someone who understood that love sometimes meant letting go. The ceremony itself was a blend of cultures. Korean tradition woven with Nigerian custom, East meeting West meeting something entirely new. Zara wore a gown of white silk with traditional Nigerian lace at the bodice, her hair crowned with small white flowers. She walked down the garden path barefoot as her mother had done and her grandmother before her. Minho wore a dark suit, the darkest he owned, with a traditional Korean geoggery vest in deep navy. His tattoos were visible at his collar and wrists, and for once he made no effort to conceal them. They were part of him. Just as Zara was part of him. Just as the children were part of him. Kai served as ring bearer, walking with solemn importance down the garden path, carrying the rings on a small velvet cushion. Mina served as flower girl, scattering petals with slightly more enthusiasm than necessary, grinning from ear to ear. When Zara reached the altar, a simple wooden arch entwined with chrysanthemums and peonies, she looked up at Minho and saw him clearly. Not the black tiger. Not the feared mafia boss. Not the cold, calculating chairman. Just Minho. The man who had bribed a nurse to photograph his newborn children. The man who had carried a faded picture in his wallet for 7 years. The man who was trying with everything he had to become someone worthy of the family he had been given. "You look terrified," she whispered. "I am terrified." "Good. That means it matters. Everything about this matters. Everything about you matters." The vows were spoken quietly, meant only for each other. Minho's voice, usually so controlled, trembled as he promised to protect, to cherish, to show up every morning and choose love over fear, softness over armor, family over empire. Zara's voice, usually so steady, cracked as she promised to trust, to stay, to build something permanent in a world that had taught her nothing was permanent. Kai and Mina watched with wide, shining eyes. When the ceremony ended, when the rings were exchanged and the vows were sealed, the children rushed forward, crashing into their parents with the full-body enthusiasm that only 7-year-olds possess. Minho lifted Kai onto one hip and Mina onto the other, their arms wrapping around his neck, their identical faces pressed against his cheeks. Zara stepped into the circle, her arms around all three of them. For people. One family. Finally whole. The small crowd applauded. Adunni wept. June pretended not to weep but fooled no one. Daniel smiled, raised his glass in a silent toast and quietly made his peace. And somewhere in a prison cell, Kang Jae-won watched the news coverage of the wedding on a small television screen, his plans in ashes, his empire dismantled, his legacy nothing but a cautionary tale about the futility of revenge. 6 months later. The hanok had been expanded, carefully, respectfully, with new rooms added in a style that honored the traditional architecture while accommodating the needs of a growing family. Kai and Mina had their own rooms now, but they still pushed their beds together most nights, their unconscious forms gravitating toward each other like planets held in mutual orbit. Zara had taken over one wing as an art studio, filling it with canvases and paints and the colorful chaos of creation. She had begun teaching again, not at a school this time, but at a community center in Itaewon, where she offered free art classes to children from multicultural families. Children who, like her own, lived between worlds. Minho had changed. Not entirely. Not completely. The black tiger couldn't simply be shed like a skin. It was too deeply woven into who he was, too essential to the power structures that still required his attention. But the edges had softened. He delegated more. Attended fewer late-night meetings. Came home for dinner every evening and insisted on cooking at least 3 nights a week. Badly, but with such earnest determination that no one had the heart to criticize. He learned to braid Mina's hair. It took him 2 weeks of practice, watching YouTube tutorials with the same intensity he brought to business negotiations, but he mastered it. And every morning without fail he sat with his daughter and carefully wove her dark curls into neat braids, his tattooed fingers gentle and precise. He taught Kai to play chess. The boy had a natural talent for strategy, unsurprising given his parentage, and within months was beating his father regularly. Minho pretended to be frustrated but secretly glowed with pride. He learned to say, "I love you" in Yoruba. "Mo naifiri." He said it to Zara every morning. His pronunciation was terrible. He loved him for it anyway. One morning, early before the children woke, Minho sat in the garden with a cup of coffee, watching the sunrise paint the mountains in shades of gold and amber. Zara appeared behind him, wrapped in a robe, her hair loose around her shoulders. She sat beside him without speaking, and they watched the light change in comfortable silence. "I had a dream last night," he said eventually. "About what?" "About the library. The day Kai found Mina. I dreamed I was there, not as myself but as a stranger. Someone watching from the shelves. And I saw them see each other for the first time." "What happened?" Kai asked his question. Why do you have my face? And in the dream I tried to answer. I tried to explain everything. The conspiracy, the separation, the years of lies. But I couldn't speak. No sound came out. So I just stood there watching my children discover each other, unable to tell them why. Tsar took his hand. You don't need to tell them why anymore. They know. I know. But sometimes I still feel like that silent man in the library. Watching. Unable to fix what was broken. You're not silent anymore, Minho. And nothing is broken. Not really. Cracked maybe. Scarred. But the cracks let the light in. He looked at her. This woman who had endured more than anyone should have to endure, who had sacrificed everything to protect their daughter, who had carried the weight of impossible secrets for 7 years. How are you so wise? He asked. I'm Nigerian. Wisdom comes standard. He laughed. It was a sound she had heard only rarely in the years since they'd reunited. Genuine, unguarded, free. I love you, he said. Emo Naifi Ri. Your pronunciation is getting worse. I'm working on it. Work harder. Yes, ma'am. They sat together as the sun climbed higher, as the garden filled with golden light, as the sounds of 2 children waking drifted from the house, giggles and arguments and the particular chaos that only twins can generate. Minho set down his coffee. Ready? He asked. Zara smiled. Ready. They rose together and walked into the house, into the noise and the mess and the beautiful, imperfect reality of a family that had been torn apart and put back together. A family that had survived everything the world had thrown at it. A family built on love that was stronger than fear, stronger than betrayal, stronger than the darkest secrets that powerful people could devise. A family that had begun with a 7-year-old's innocent question. Why do you have my face? And ended with an answer that no conspiracy could ever destroy. Because we belong to each other. Because we always have. Because we always will. The library at Hanul International Academy looked the same. Tall windows. Polished wooden floors. Shelves filled with stories waiting to be discovered. Kai and Mina, now 9 years old, sat in the same corner where they had first met. They were doing homework. Kai struggling with a Korean language essay, Mina breezing through a mathematics problem set. You're doing it wrong, Mina said, glancing at his essay. I'm doing it my way. Your way has 3 spelling errors. That's stylistic. That's wrong. Whatever. They bickered the way twins do, effortlessly, affectionately, with the comfortable ease of 2 people who know they will always have each other. A new student entered the library. A young boy, maybe 6, with wide eyes and a nervous expression. He was clearly lost, clearly overwhelmed by the grand surroundings. Mina noticed him first. She stood up, crossed the room and knelt beside the boy, her smile warm and welcoming. Hi, she said. Are you new? The boy nodded. I'm Mina. That grumpy one over there is my brother Kai. We can help you find what you're looking for. I'm looking for a book about tigers, the boy said shyly. Mina grinned. You came to the right place. We know everything about tigers. She took the boy's hand and led him to the shelves, chattering happily about the different kinds of tigers. Siberian and Bengal and of course her favorite, the black tiger. The black tiger is special, she explained, reaching for a book on the top shelf. Most people think it's scary because of how it looks. But really it's just protecting the people it loves. Kai looked up from his essay, watching his sister with a quiet smile. 2 years ago he had walked into this library alone. Now he would never be alone again. He picked up his pen, crossed out the 3 spelling errors Mina had identified and continued writing. Outside, the autumn light filtered through tall windows like liquid gold. And somewhere in the city, in a traditional hanok on a hillside, a man with a tiger tattoo was learning to make jollof rice for the 2nd time that week. He was getting better. Slowly. But getting better. Thank you for listening to this story. If it touched your heart, please like, share and subscribe. Every story about family is a story about all of us. About the bonds that break and heal and break again. About the love that survives even when everything else falls apart. Until next time, take care of the people who matter to you. You never know how precious that time truly is.